we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
And welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and let me tell you, we got some weird stuff happening around headquarters tonight. Weird stuff. I don't know what's going on, but if all of a sudden something happens and I disappear, you heard it here first. Science Bob and Friends, Dr. Bob McGwier is here with John Yost and Deb Shakti. We're going to get into some really cool stories. If you haven't heard John's story yet, be prepared to be amazed. Dirty Filth is here as well with another great cartoon. And now all of you are here, which makes it even better. We got Race Fan in the gold medal position and B taking home the silver with Penny Van drawing in on the bronze medal tonight. Hello there, Thurston Howell III, Roy Boy. How you doing? Jack Clark, Brown Dwarf. Good to see you guys. Hey there, Adam Lakatos and Les Paul Holland. Susie B, how's it going there, lady? Lisa C, nice to see you. Philip Blair, good to have you here. Pam Harris, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much. Nancy Hayes, nice to see you. Evan Walters, you're pissing me off early, and I like it. Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. Sandy B, nice to have you here. From Stockholm, Sweden, wearing Grant Fuhrer's old number 31, starting in goal, Lars Janssen. Good to have you here, Lars. Kathy Evans, Daryl Zierlein, nice to have you here. Sugar Britches, good to see you. Search and Destroy is here. Search and Destroy will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. YYJBBK, welcome to SOR Chat. Hi, Luscious Jules, good to see you. Nancy Thames, nice to see you. D. Cohen, good to have you here. From Calgary, it's Guy. Guy from Calgary. Yeah, we like him around here. Oh, my throat's going on me. Gee whiskers. It's just the start. Markham, how you doing, buddy? Jessica Millennium, Toe Tag, Dogface Simon, and Pixie Lar. Good to see you all. Richard Elmore, W. David Page, thank you for joining us. Catherine Jones, good to have you back. And who else is here? Kurt M., how you doing, man? And where are we here? Pam Harris, thank you. Marty Burback, Dirty Filth, good to have you here. Area 51, nice to have you here. Deb from SAC, good to see you. Hadley, good to have you back. Verpeen, War Criminal, nice to see you both. Thank you for coming on in. Mark Sanchez, let us know what Hawaiian shirt you got on tonight. GFGFGFGFG, good to have you here. GFGFGFG will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Vaughn Patrick, good to see you. And who else do we got here? Let's scroll on down. Yeah, Dave probably getting abducted tonight, Marty. Yes, Dave is probably getting abducted. Shaq Valet, nice to have you here from Norway. And Tony D, looking sweet tonight. Zoria, how you doing? Welcome back. Noble Patrick, nice to see you. And there's Oob to Joe's Maine. You've got aliens as well. We're coming down to see you. My brother Eugene, how you doing? Travis, how you doing, bud? Thank you. Yeah, it has returned. I know that. Tim Mothman, nice to see you. Like I said, weird stuff happening around the studio tonight. Watch what Travis W. says in the chat room. That's our man, Travis William Moostus. And, listen to him. Zen 2, nice to see you. And who else is here? We got to hurry up here. Oh, let's see. Digger Dog, thanks for coming on in. Chill Farm, good to see you. Paul War, welcome to SOR chat. We're caught up. Oh, Senior Pent, welcome to SOR chat as well. All right, guys, we got 25 seconds. Super chat is open. The store is open on the website. I've got a cough, and all of you are here. We're going to rock it in like 3 seconds. You ready? I'm ready. Do me a favor. Get your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of woo tonight. Dr. Bob McGwier, a.k.a. Science Bob, is here with John Yost and Deb Shakti. This is going to be a great night of woo. Great night of woo. Then, in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Then little Timmy Senor will be here with the UFO report. Each and every month around the middle, we get a little bit of a scientific introduction to the world of the paranormal and supernatural. His name, Science Bob. Yes, Dr. Bob McGwier, the last couple of years, has been hanging out with us, looking at the more rational side of the woo with the who, what, where, when, why, and how. How he does it? Well, years of experience as a scientist, as a member of your favorite alphabet agencies, and now he is fully engulfed in trying to find life's major mysteries. Tonight, we are joined by good friends of Bob's. We have Deb Shakti. We have John Yost. And I want to say a big thank you to all of you for coming on the show tonight, which is going to make it highly entertaining and highly educational. Science Bob, how you doing, my friend? It's good to see you.
I'm doing so good, Dave, and glad to be on tonight. Glad that we got 2 great guests. They have a really interesting collection of stories and lots of stuff for us to delve into.
Excellent. John, I believe this will be your first time on with me. I think you did a weekend show with us a long time ago, but first time with me. So welcome to you to Spaced Out Radio. We very much appreciate learning your story together tonight. And Deb Shakti, one of my good friends here, your energy is always on point when you are here, and we love it that you have come back to join us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Bob, you're the commander-in-chief of Science Bob and Friends, so tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Well, so Debs and John have both been very, very important to me. John put out a movie, Alien Abductions, give me some answers, and I looked at it, was in just rapt attention, just totally got involved, and I saw Deb Shakti in this movie. And Lala and I got together. That's Lala Bright, who is sick tonight and says hello. Anyway, so we got together, and we're now together. We're living together in Maryland, and we decided that Debs was somebody we needed a quantum healing transformation on, and she did a very deep analysis on both of us back to back, one day after another. I mean, we spent hours and hours looking at those videotapes together. So anyway, that's my introduction to them. And so I don't want to steal any of their thunder. I'd like them to tell their story. Dave, if you're ready.
Sure, we're ready to go. John, let's start with you here because I mean your hair is on point tonight. It looks very nice, by the way. Very nicely.
I stole it from Alec Baldwin. He doesn't need it tonight.
No, but you're an ET contactee, I believe, and you've decided to go full into the deep end of the woo, just like many of us have, who've seen these little aliens running around. And how did this all happen? How did this all start for you?
Yes, well, thanks very much, Dave, for having us, and of course, Bob, I love you, brother, and Debs, you're my guardian angel, of course. Well, I'll save that for later. When I was 7, Dave, I woke up in the middle of the night to this undulating hum, and I was angry. I was a little boy, and I was angry because I couldn't get to sleep. So I went to the restroom and did my business there and had some water. And when I opened the door, there was an entity in the doorway with its back to the hallway. And to my eyes, a 7-year-old boy, what I was seeing was a character that used to be on Japanese television called Ultraman. I don't know if you remember him, but he was a giant guy, silver guy, olive eyes, but he was my size. I was a 7-year-old boy, and I'm a big guy today, but back then I was the smallest kid in my class until high school. We got very close. I wasn't afraid of him at the time. And then something happened. When we got nose to nose, I started to feel, the way I've described it in the past is that if you've ever stood on a beach and you felt the water come over your ankles and pull it out from underneath you, you start to fall. And I flailed like a drowning man and literally laid hands on this person, this thing that was in the hallway. And there was a flash of light, and it felt like I was moving, but I couldn't tell. And all of these colors. And I was in the middle of this literally altercation. And as I'm coming out of that sort of thing, I found myself on the opposite side. Now my back was in the hallway, and this person, this entity, their back was in the bathroom. Well, I'm in the middle of this fight, and as I do, I say he, but he raised his hand and touched me on the shoulder. And when he did, there was this tremendous flash of light, and I felt like a wave of energy hit me in the chest and knocked me down. And I fell down these stairs. My parents came out, and I mean, I'm trying to race through this because I don't want to take any thunder from anybody else, but my parents came out, and of course they searched upstairs. There was nothing there. But the next day...
John, take your time. We're going to take all the time we want for this.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Thank you. The next day, my mother was giving me a bath, and she noticed my shoulder. And she said, "Honey, what is this?" And I said, "Mom, I told you it was, this Ultraman." And she looked very sad at the time and said it'll be okay. My father took me to the doctor a couple of days later, and he was examining my cuts and bruises, and they were purpling and yellowing at the time because it was a couple of days later. And then he got to my shoulder, my left shoulder, and he says, "Whoa, sport, what the heck is this?" And, I started to blurt out, I'm a little kid. And my father had admonished me to never say anything, but I wasn't thinking about it. And I saw my dad in the corner, and he was giving me the look, back in the 70s, when your dad gave you the look, you shut your damn mouth. And so, I got through that, got a lollipop, and got back in the car. As my father pulled into my parents' home driveway, he said to me, "Now listen, son, I never, ever want to hear this story again. I never want to hear about this Ultraman guy. I don't want you scaring your mother. I don't want you scaring. There was something about that interchange that that affected me. And I lied about it my entire life. And that lie, that negativity touched everything. And it poisoned my life, my relationships. That negativity really, it affected me, affected my health. So I lied about it and joked about it and obfuscated my entire life about that. And then I grew up a normal guy, then started working in radio and television and film. And this is just what my job is. And I worked in front of the camera and behind it and became a producer. One day, about 3.5 years ago, I'm out in the middle of this place called Borrego Springs, California. And it's very flat and arid. And during that time, I witnessed, along with about 15 other people, a very large, about the size of a Volkswagen, a blue-green thing that was hovering above the house that we were all staying in. And when everybody saw it, they were kind of amazed and were like, oh my God, what is this? And it moved lightning fast and literally stopped above my head. And I felt that same feeling that I felt when I was a 7-year-old boy. And I could have told you all the details of that encounter, but what happened was this visceral fear, terror took care of me, took my heart right out of my body. And I felt that sand slipping out from underneath my feet. Well, from that day forward, I was just in turmoil. I was aching. I was like a walking bruise. And I couldn't deal with it. I mean, it wasn't like I was a 50-year-old guy dealing with something that had happened to me. I was a 7-year-old boy who had never dealt with something that had happened to him. And I was so angry about that. You're in the business, so you know how anal retentive we have to be. You know, you're checking boxes, making sure that everything's taken care of, the gear, whatever. And it crippled me. I developed a tremendous fear of open sky and water. And I decided, I'm so self-reliant. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to just fix this. And I realized that I wasn't, anybody special. That other people must have had some sort of example in their life, some sort of experience. And started to read and then interviewed people and then filmed them and then eventually became brave enough to share my story with them. And then something happened, really, that was really the pivotal point. And this is where Debs comes in. The moment, I could describe to you everything that happened, but I could not tell you what happened, how I got interpolated or interchanged with this entity. What happened, where did I go, how did I move, and why my back was in that hallway, and why that creature or that entity or that person's back was in the bathroom. I could not, for the life of me, recall. And somebody had introduced me to dear Deb Shakti, who is my guardian angel. And she's a little elf. She's a tiny little petite little person. And I unfortunately am not. and so, I kind of scoffed at the beginning. And I'm not proud of this, but I kind of scoffed. I said, you hypnotized me, little lady, haha. And she, she has this little impish smile, as you can see on screen. And she kind of looked up and said, well, we'll see. And then she said, look, John, I'm really not going to do anything. All I'm going to do is teach you how to relax. And then you are going to walk down that hallway that you constructed. And you're going to open that door that you locked so many years ago. And you're going to open that file cabinet. And you're going to observe and you're going to report. And that's all that's going to happen. And I had doubts, but I really wanted to film it. And she was against it originally and said, look, we're not screwing around here. We're dealing with serious matters. This is your psyche. This is your soul. This is your consciousness. We can't fool around. This is serious business. And I shared with her what my idea for a film was. I knew that other people were out there that were suffering with the same kind of trauma that I had experienced. And I felt a need to help those people. I wanted to share this process, and hopefully what I was looking for was peace and healing. And so at that, Debs is an entirely service to other person. And so she understood the logic of that and the wisdom and resonated with that. But she said, look, we can't have people around. And so we had remote cameras and people weren't in the room and they were around it. We had to do all kinds of crazy gymnastics that you don't normally do on a film shoot. But what happened was about 6.5 hours of tape. And at the end of that, there was an incredible revelation. I found out exactly who took me. I found out that it hadn't been the first time. I found out that there was a real message for me and for other people. And I found out where they took me. And at the end of that, I was electrified. There was this kind of voice coming out of me that really wasn't even me. It almost felt like, I don't know if you've ever been around really, really big people, like people in the NFL or the NBA. It felt like somebody of gargantuan size was right behind me, leaning in and putting their hands on my shoulders. And my mouth opened, but that was not me. And said some absolutely incredible things that I would have never said. Well, it took me a couple of weeks to really watch the entire thing, but what happened was it really did start to heal me. And so we included all of this material in this film called Alien Abduction Answers. And the idea behind the film is this: the world is ignorant. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I mean that in an unknowing sense. They don't know the facts. And so ignorance breeds fear. And in me, it had bred terror, crippling terror. And hopefully this film shepherds people from that status of ignorance and fear to some sense of understanding and peace, which is what I'm achieving with this film. And I could never have done it without Debs. And that's why I continuously call her, much to her chagrin, my guardian angel. But I owe my life to her. She saved me. She really did.
John, so I know you're going to be appearing in several places, and I know that you are the opening night for UFOCon 2023 in San Francisco, where your film will be shown to the entire audience. And UFOCon, of course, focuses on abductees and experiencers, but mostly abductees. And the entire conference is run and dominated by people who have taken a flight. So, John, tell us where you're going to show up, where you're going to be, in addition to UFOCon 2023, which you and I and Lala and Dave, of course, will all be there. Dave is the MC this time.
Yes, sir. You kind of caught me off.
That's all right. Take your time.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Let me pull this up real quick. I don't, Debs will tell you, I really never think of myself in these situations. So you kind of shocked me by asking me this. Yes, I'm so pressed to tell people about this. One of the things that I experienced was fear and shame, and I knew that thousands, and actually there are millions of people who suffer the same way. And Debs can tell you, she has a global practice. She deals with folks like this all the time, and I just thought, look, there's such a stigma about talking about this, about admitting this, about sharing this, that I thought, you know what, maybe people in the safety of a theater seat or their sofa at home could watch me be a scaramouche, could watch me be an idiot. I could ask the questions that maybe they would like to ask, or say the things that they want to say, and they could live vicariously through me. And the idea of Alien Abduction Answers is not the fact that I have answers. This is the quest for those answers. And hopefully what we do is we leave landmarks for other people. You know, it's an immersive, as you know, Bob, it's an immersive film. Many other investigators are just that. They're geniuses. And maybe they had something happen in their life, maybe they didn't, but really they're from academia or they're just, reporters, this sort of thing. But I come from a film and television background. So the movie, as you know, is more like a movie. It's more like an immersive experience. You're with me from the very first frame in the middle of my abduction. And I just I rambled there so I could.
John, why don't we do this? Let me just make a quick comment, and then
please do.
when
Please do,
we
sir.
come back from the break, we
Yes, sir.
will let you put up, tell whatever, and then we'll go to depth. So I just
Understood.
wanted to say that I'm a scientist. I'm an engineer.
Yes, sir.
I had experiences when I was young, and I had missing time when I just became an adult, and all those things changed my life dramatically, and then I
Yes.
forgot all about them.
Mhm.
For 40 something years, I forgot about them. I hid them. I buried them.
Yes, sir.
And Debs did the same for me that she did for you. Now, each of us is different.
Mm.
I have a big ego. I'm a smart guy. I have a big IQ. Okay, and I do, and it's just the facts. But that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
I am here to help other people gain an understanding of what is going on with this. And the principal person that is going to be bringing the message, I am here to serve. And that's Lala Bright, because she is an amazing person. And, I know people think, what is going on with all of this? This is so quick, so fast. But once you've been through this experience with Debs, my experience was just slightly different from yours in that there are 3 segments, as you know. The first 2 segments, I was wondering, am I hypnotized? I said, these things are coming into my head and I'm saying them, but am I really hypnotized? And then the 3rd segment, and I'm going, whoa, here I am dwindling into the background, and that ain't me running my mouth, that's somebody else. And as everybody in this audience knows, me not running my mouth is a rarity. Dave, what do you got before we go out?
Well, I love hearing experiencers' stories because if you're like me and an experiencer yourself, you kind of find common ground with what's going on with other people. And I love knowing that, like my incidents didn't happen in childhood, John. My incidents started when I was 38 years old. And, I know I look 74, but I'm only going to be 50 this year. But the key is, it's amazing how it starts and how you recognize every little tidbit. And what caught me off guard was when you said that when you had your experience as an adult, it brought you that energy, that feeling brought you right back to when you're 7. It's just like the stuff that was happening outside my house before the show that brought me back to a few years ago where I recognized that same feeling. With about 45 seconds to go, it's amazing how those feelings, John, just don't leave. You recognize them instantaneously.
The feelings cut you to the core. And I really think that's the power of your soul.
Yeah.
I think you trap that energy, either positive or negative. And when it's released, it becomes visceral out in your spacesuit that you're wearing in this 3D
Illusion.
matrix. Yeah.
Dave, I call those soul markers.
Hmm.
Soul markers. They're like Post-it notes from the future or the past or, the quantum field to remind you, like they're placeholders for the energy.
I get that. And team, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour of hour number 1 here on Spaced Out Radio. Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier. Our special guests tonight, Deb Shakti, John Yost, and all the alien stuff we can fit in the next 90 minutes. Oh, I love my aliens. Love them. Where are you, aliens? Come on down. I'm ready for you tonight on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear.
John, great half hour. That was great.
Thank you, sir.
The thing I like is when you just let them. I knew what you were going to be like. We're just going to let you go, let you tell your story, and you're going to channel all that emotion, all that narrative in a condensed form that you put into the movie. And everybody in the audience that hasn't seen this movie has never seen an alien abduction movie because you've never seen it from the experiencer's point of view. As John said, you always see it from some reporter or some documentarian or some scientist who's interviewing the person and treating them like they're an idiot. Well, this is just something completely different in the sense that you feel compassion, you have empathy, and it's what people need. And so people need to see it, especially if they don't believe, because they understand the power of what has happened to you alters your life.
Yep.
Well said, sir. Well said.
I hear
Debs,
you.
I'm so glad you're good.
Oh, I'm great. I'm
That's
feeling wonderful.
fantastic.
Thank you.
And
Now we
thank
gotta
you
work on Lola.
for all your great pearls of wisdom the last couple of days. I can tell you're feeling better.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Woohoo.
become quite prolific when I'm feeling good. So
Yes, me too. I was so silent for 24 hours. Debs got worried, and
I
she
was
said
freaking
so
out.
because and Facebook had put me in jail. And it's a funny story. I have a friend. His name is Charlie, and you'll notice if you go back to that post, you'll see that Charlie posted, and he always calls everybody a some bitch. And he put up this post about the Chinese balloon. And I said, we need to take them some bitches and shoot that balloon down. And Facebook thought I was cursing somebody and then threatening them. And so they took me out for 24 hours. And I'm on probation.
It happens to me at least once a month. So welcome to the club.
You people are nothing but trouble.
And
Trouble.
Dave put up this meme of me breaking big rocks into little rocks.
Yeah, Bugs Bunny one. Deb, check the note on the screen.
Dave, there's about 25 different species on that Arrow ship.
Yeah, Lala said there was way more than one.
Oh yeah, no, there are several hundred right now. Kind of coming together. I can't think of the word now.
All I know is I knew it was there.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's still around.
So
you have that feeling. So
we have a picture of a craft, which I've done the geometry on, and is huge. This thing is huge, and it looks like a stacked up decorative hotel. And it's full. It's full of beings. And you could go on my Facebook page or my Twitter account and see a picture of this. Somebody called it the Black Knight. It's not the Black Knight,
no.
but anyway, no, it's
called the Bob Knight. The Bob Knight.
No, Bob and Lala Knight. She found it. It's this gigantic hotel full of aliens.
It looks somewhat like, or it looks very much like the ship that some of the people on Dr. Greer's team, who are my dear friends, call Alexander. And did I ever send you pictures of that? I think I sent Paula pictures.
No, you haven't, but I'm telling you, this is.
I will. It's huge, and it was very clear. And
the first time we took that video, and she zoomed in on a screenshot, and that craft came into being. I went, whoa! And then 3 weeks later, the craft came back and turned from this way to this way, but I could recognize it was the same craft. You see that thing twice, and you don't doubt it anymore.
Nope.
All right, guys, we got about 45 seconds. I want to say thank you to Pam, Bob, Dennis, Lori, and Obi Flett for the amazing super chats. It really helps out what we do on our show on a nightly basis. John, Yo, Science, Bob, and Dave, that's me, will all be at UFOCon 2023. on March 17th through 19th in San Francisco, California. Come join us if you're in the area. You can get your tickets right now at UFOCon2023.com. And 2 months later, May 19th through 21st, the second annual Spaced Out Radio Fan Party in Las Vegas at the Golden Nugget. We're going to have a 7-hour live YouTube show. It's going to be fantastic. Everyone's invited. Everyone. If you want tickets, go to info@spacedoutradio.com. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate each and every one of you tuning us on in. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives on YouTube at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you want to hear us, we are there. Yes. And you can check out our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Second half hour, Science Bob and Friends, led by the magical, the mystical, the man of this hour, Mr. Bob McGwier. We appreciate you coming on in, Science Bob.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Debs, so we extolled your virtues in the first half hour. Tell us how you arrived at these virtues.
I came in this way. As Lady Gaga says, I was born this way. I thought everybody had the same kind of perspective on life that I did. I have always been very telepathic. I call it telepathic because it's more than just mental information. It's emotional information that comes through from others. Always have been able to perceive and interact with interdimensional beings, ETs, anything that is, another form of consciousness, as well as humans. But I was more in tune with those guys when I was little because I was really, really introverted, and had a lot of energy. I don't like to call it energy healing, but energy support facilities to help others, and just a lot of different things from babyhood. And so as I grew older, after having had to repress a lot of that from, like John, like most of us who had childhood experiences, we were told to not talk about it, not, that it was ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. But as I grew older into adulthood, things started becoming much more pronounced, much more urgent. And I began to also see that there were scientific organizations and groups and professors and teachers who were talking about such certain things from a scientific perspective. And that helped me understand what was going on. That's how I got into all the sciences. I got into psychology first, and then the sciences, and then started studying quantum physics. And I'm by no means understand any of it. I have a very rudimentary understanding of it, but it helped to put things together for me to explain how I conceptualize the world and interact with the world. And I mean the world, not just Earth, but life. And I use that, that knowledge and that experience to help others, because that's what I believe I came here to do.
Great. Okay. So I believe, like and John knows and Dave knows, that consciousness is this universal field which is throughout the universe.
Yeah.
So and since I believe the consciousness is information. I believe that this field is a quantum field and its little particle is a qubit. Okay, so explain to us why you call your work quantum transformation services. Why that terminology?
Well, okay, so there are two perspectives on the quantum term. Um, there's the scientific exploration of that can become very deep and convoluted and very hard to understand. But the basis of it is that we believe the smallest measurable thing in life is called a quantum or a quanta. Okay. Um, and that these things are all made of the same, they all originate from the same energy. Energy never dies, it merely changes form and function by virtue of its vibrational state. And those are measurable to a point with what we have in our rudimentary, scientific abilities as earthbound third dimensional humans right now. The other side of that coin that we call quantum everything has become more popularized to include it just speaks to the universality of everything, the connectiveness of everything. When certain physicists began studying uh, the quantum field, they found that it expressed in a fractal nature. It kept repeating patterns no matter whether you went down to the lowest microscopic view to the grandest macro view that we have of the universe. Patterns are repeated in all of these forms, which tells us that there are infinite versions of everything in creation, and I believe that. So the pop culture version of quantum physics, for instance, it's just kind of this blanket term for the all that is, the cosmos, uh, life, what some people call God, divine, source. In fact, it's become so popularized. One of my students got me this cup that says I'm straight out of quantum, which is funny, but it's true. I'm made of quanta. You're made of quanta. And so the work that I do, I chose the term quantum transformation, and the hypnosis therapy that I work with, I termed quantum hypnosis because of the interconnected, infinitely interconnected quality of life, of energy, of all of us. I may be wrong, and you don't have to buy into this, but I truly believe, especially from all the data that I have gathered from decades and decades of this work with people who keep bringing up these tales, like John, like you, like Lala had, that there are infinite universes and there are infinite versions of each of us in these infinite universes, and they are all living out their realities. And in fact, I'll even go one step further and say every moment, every time you make a choice between one or more things, you create alternate universes and alternate versions of you living out the other forms of the choice that this person did not choose. And you go on to live out your reality with that choice. I may or may not be right, but I have a lot of anecdotal evidence that says that's true. So we are continuously as this gigantic infinite form, all that is, consciousness is what I like to term it, or what I really like to term it is quantum consciousness. We are just these quanta pieces of this entity, but we're all connected and we affect each other always, forever, at all in all ways, which is kind of a mind bender. But what's really cool about it is, if that is true, this is an if then statement, Mr. Science Bob. If that is true, then we have access to all of the experiences of all those infinite other selves, and indeed of each other, because we are all connected, I believe, via quantum entanglement. And I might be wrong with that too. So
No, I think as you and John and Dave and I have interacted with each other, we have become entangled, as in the quantum sense, and the entanglement is in the information that goes into our person, our current incarnation, our current spacesuit. And our spacesuits interact, and so the facet of the consciousness field that we are entangles with each other, and that's how you become bound to each other. And we've gone from not knowing each other to being friends with each other and doing things together. And so you become more and more entangled, and the atomic bond goes closer. And one more thing I would keep wanting people to remind people of is that consciousness has something deep to do with quantum mechanics. The reason I say that is the phenomenon that made quantum mechanics was the double slit experiment. And this is where you fire photons or electrons at two slits. And if you don't look, you get a rainbow array across the screen. If you look, you get like bullets going through two holes and with two little patterns. And this says that if you observe, you change things. So you bring it into reality. You take the field, you make it a particle. This says that we, in our consciousness, create our own reality.
Precisely.
So take that and run with it, if you will, and tell me how foolish I am or how right you think I am.
I believe you are 100% right. And in fact, as a student of the sciences and the best I can do with quantum physics, studied all the great names. We talk about the Penrose-Hameroff, theory, where they talk about the neurons in the brain literally may be a quantum computer, or at least, but then they say, well, that can't be true because that type of effect can't happen under or over temperatures above minus 200 and something degrees, and so how can that happen in a brain that is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit? And so what I have, and they also say that, they were postulating that if that's true, then the brain is creating consciousness, but it's backwards. Consciousness creates the brain. In fact, I say, what this body that we're wearing is a spacesuit. This is what we navigate this third dimensional Earth environment with. And the operating system is the brain. And the software is our mind, our consciousness, but it's so limited because the operating system is so small. You can't cram a whole lot in there, so we only carry around the most important things to keep the spacesuit running, basically, and keep us from running into everything in this environment and getting hurt. But every once in a while, we start to remember that we're greater than this spacesuit. We are infinite, and we have an infinite access to the cloud, which is the all that is, which is quantum consciousness. And once you get the feeling state down of being able to access that, like we were talking to Dave earlier about having that feeling state when he knows when he's gonna travel with the folks, he knows, right? Like tonight, it's the same thing. When you have a feeling state and you can literally start to program that within your conscious awareness of being able to access that stream of universal consciousness, quantum consciousness, you start to be able to pull forth or extract data that is important to what you are working with, and suddenly synchronicities happen everywhere for you, and things start to fall in place. Now, how does that apply to the work that I do with people? Well, as John said, I teach them how to relax in a certain way, and my way is it's kind of radical, because I make sure that people learn how to do a few practices. I'm also a yogi, and I bring in some ancient yogic practices, which I think were given to us by interdimensional beings before humans ever came on. But you practice these certain techniques, and it opens up your ability to access the cloud or quantum consciousness, the cosmic mind. And once we have that connection, then in a session, I help you program yourself to remember that feeling state, and then be able to practice using it to continue to access, even when you're not paying attention to it. What some people would call coincidence, or even more enlightened people might call synchronicity, none of those are by accident. They are absolutely on purpose, and you are directing all of it from the cloud, because you are the cloud, and you're streaming it into this operating system, which then upgrades the spacesuit. By the way, your DNA gets enhanced, things get switched back on that are latent, and suddenly you start to have more abilities that you notice, or you start to have an expanded way of perceiving things. However you want to explain it, it causes, how shall I put this? There's a lot of catharsis sometimes that happens, but it's not uncomfortable. It's just kind of third person. It's like you're watching a movie, but you're able to report it. You're able to understand it. You're able to integrate it, and then healing begins. And then, as you're becoming more and more healed internally, you go out into the world and you start to spread a new vibration, which I believe is how we change the world for the better, and we all kind of achieve an elevated or an expanded way of being.
Dave, you got something?
I'm just sitting back listening, man, and letting it all sink in, because in the end, we all want to find out kind of what is happening with us and why it's happening with us. And that is something I'm not sure any experiencer right now could answer, Deb. Why me? Why is this happening to me? Whether it started at 7 years old, or whether it started at 38 years old, or for some people 50 years old. We all want to know why.
Well, from hundreds, dare I say thousands of sessions with people, and interactions with people too, just everyday conversations that are now happening, because people are starting to all become coherent in the higher levels of this energetic state. From what I'm learning, why me? It's because it is you. And it is you trying to wake. It's like, I call it my big, but some people call it higher self, whatever you want to call it. I call it my big self, or my big. My big is trying to shake me to death. Not really, but shake me up, to wake me up, to understand that there's no separateness. The beings who come and take you on your travels, Dave, are the same beings who are you on other frequencies. These other realities are merely different frequencies of your own existence, and they're trying to get you to see a broader scope of what life is. Now, some of it may feel really uncomfortable, or you may not even want to do it, because you're just not used to it. You don't understand it. There, like when John was a little boy, he didn't understand what all that was about, and he was terrified. And it terrified him for almost his whole life until he had that experience where he could see it clearly and make that connection. And I can't speak for John, but I feel like that's what happened. I know that's what happens with my clients in these sessions.
I want to say that I felt really privileged when I had Debs do my regression, because unlike what she's saying now, in my regressions, I got answers. All 3 stages. Unlike many, I got answers. I knew why I wanted to be all this stuff. I sat in Neil Armstrong's seat and flew to the moon inside his body. And I knew every detail of everything. I knew every switch on the Apollo capsule. I was him.
It was remarkable.
Then I learned how we as humanity came into being. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. I knew why we were here. I knew what was going on, and it was magnificent. And finally, I knew my purpose. My purpose was to help do the things Deb's hoping we'll do. I won't be the person that does it all, but I'm going to help. And that has to be enough. I make a contribution to helping Lala. We both make contributions. The 2 of you make contributions. Dave makes a contribution. And collectively, working together, we will do what Debs calls raise the frequency. And it is quantum, because as you promote an electron from an inner shell to an outer shell, you raise its energy and you raise its frequency. Because exactly. The photon that's emitted or absorbed is higher in frequency at the higher energy. This is completely analogous to what people are saying when they're raising their frequencies. Why I know deep down inside, there's this deep connection between the quantum field of consciousness and quantum field theory for matter and energy. So we're going to get there. We're going to figure some stuff out and make it work. But I know it's the same type of math equations or thought processes or whatever. Yeah. It's just a great thing to feel honored to be told. And so I just want to tell the audience what my experience was like, so they understand kind of what Debs does. Is you go through 3 doors, and you come in and out of your orb, and you go through 3 doors. You have 3 experiences. My first one was, where did I want to go? Well, I wanted to be Neil Armstrong. I sat in his seat and I went to the moon and I flew back. And I remember I went back and looked at the tape. Neil was this stone-faced guy who never showed emotion. I was bawling and crying my eyes out because I was so filled with emotion. So inside, he was very emotional because it was the dream of a lifetime. He had his life achievement and he never flew again. He never went again. Okay, so then we just went from there. So when we come back, we'll continue with other things. Dave, what do we got, 1 minute?
We got about 45 seconds.
Okay, great. So I just want to say to people when we come back, John and Debs are going to interact on how their process worked. And because we want to hear about the 2 of them and how John made the movie, how Debs played a role in the movie. And the movie is wonderful. We really want to promote the movie because in so doing, we will promote both of their activities. And I'm going to tell people here, please don't be foolish. Don't fail to watch this movie if you care about this subject.
And on that note, we're through 1 hour here on Spaced Out Radio's Feature Science. Bob and friends with Dr. Bob McGwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and your favorite alphabet government agency, as well as our special guest tonight, movie maker, guy with great hair, John Yost, and a lady with fantastic hair, Deb Shakti. We will be back with more Spaced Out Radio, your questions in hour number 2 as well. Science Bob and Friends continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we're clear.
So, Debs, thanks for pointing out to me the stuttering of my video. I turned off the virtual background and the stuttering stopped.
It's fine now.
It's a gobbler of resources.
It's very Science Bobish now.
It is. Is it okay for me to slip out for just a second?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that gonna? Okay, I'll be right back.
What do you got there, Filthy?
Got Bob's buddies floating around in his backyard on camera.
I mean, Filth has seen all these videos and pictures and other stuff. I mean, we're like literally we went out to a field near our home. That's a quarter mile from our home. We just parked the truck on the side of the road. Opened the door, and Lala says, "Oh, please come. We miss you. We want to see you." And we stick our camera out the window, and this gigantic, massive orb flies over, lights up the truck and the ground, and I see it, and I throw my camera out, and I get this picture. And people can go on Facebook or Twitter and see the picture of this gigantic orb flying over the truck. And in the background, you see this little streak where this other little thing flows through. I have no idea what they are, but I'm telling you what, that picture is absolutely magnificent. And then another time we did out there, we saw these energy beings. They're people call them rods. You take a look at these pictures and you know they're not a moth. And then we got another one where they claim they're moths, so their wings do like this and the frame rate on the camera is wrong. Well, moths don't do this. So we have one that has 6 wings on one side and 3 on the other. A moth is not asymmetrical. So I mean, you know, the old math brain sits there and pokes holes in their arguments.
Right.
Not that I really need to. I don't really care to do it anymore. I just put the picture up there. You enjoy it or you don't.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing with them.
I'm loving Dirty Phil's cartoon today. It was so beautiful.
Thanks, Tibbs.
Always, and you know, it's like the movie. It carries a vibrational state. It carries a message and energy, and every one of those that you do puts an energy out into the world. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of go into a trance, and the next thing I know, I got a drawing finished.
So remarkable. Every time I watch you do it, I'm just in awe, and I look at mine every day. Thank you again.
Yes, Phil, I'm very, very grateful for these pieces of art.
Oh, I got a special present for you, Bob.
That's great. I love it, brother. And I'm making your moth on my new 3D printer when it arrives next week.
Oh, that's so cool. Thanks, Bob.
Oh, man. It's an
Bob
honor.
has all the toys. He has
Well,
all
we
the
want
cool
to
toys.
do stuff with that 3D printer for our current stuff we're doing.
Cool.
Top secret stuff?
No. There's nothing top secret in my life now. So before I was half hidden. I had the regression, and now I'm out in the open. I don't care who sees it. I'm taking everything we find and just showing it to everybody.
Bob's out. He's way out of the closet.
Yeah, well, I'm out. I'm out from under the cover. And I promise you, they'll never let me back in. They took my clearance away.
Yeah. Their loss.
Oh, it is their loss. But, you know, I'll have fun with all this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I am so excited about the final pieces of the Jimmy Blanchett stuff arriving in the next week, and the radio stuff going together, and the two of us start broadcasting, and then
so
seeing
cool.
with all of our friends. Can we guess what they're saying or feel what they're saying, put it into the computer, and the next time it sees it, it translates it as that. And then we can send something they can understand, which they can instantly, we don't even need the transmitter, but we're trying to convince the rest of humanity
Right.
that they can do it too, even though we know we don't need the transmitter. Lala sits there and she goes, will you please run around in a circle? And they come out and they do this in a circle. Like bugs can. They can do circles and go backwards and forwards and 90-degree turns and all this other stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of amazing to watch.
Yep.
The first time she met me, she handed me a pendulum. She told me to close my eyes and to make it do this and do that.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, and it did.
Yeah, it's just energy. It's your consciousness.
Yeah.
You just transferred it to the mechanism of the pendulum. That's why pendulums work.
Yeah.
Jeremy in the chat room, what do you mean by hold gear? Some SOR hold gear in the store. What does that mean? I don't know. All right. Metal Gaming, how you doing? Deb, thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciate it. All right. Big thank you to Pam, Bob, Dennis, Lori, Obi, and Deb for the super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. And Dirty Filth, you're looking good down there, man. Looking good. Here comes hour number 2, everybody. We're going to have a good time here. If you have any questions, put them in capital letters. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Wastel. Wastel is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow, and on TikTok @SpacedOutRadio. Hour number 2 of Science Bob and Friends with Dr. Bob McGwier. Yeah, he is from your favorite alphabet agencies and Virginia Tech University. John Yost and Deb Shakti are our special guests tonight. We're talking all things quantum, all things alien, and all things woo. Science Bob, it's been a good show so far.
Okay, great. So Anonymous Rex asks in our chat room, John, I already know the answer, but I'm going to let you answer it, of course, since we're here to interview you. Are you doing another film on this subject?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the question. This subject is like eating an elephant. You can't eat it in one bite, right? And so I kind of felt that this was a catharsis for me. I wanted peace doing this film, and I was hoping I was going to take, the viewer and myself from a place of ignorance and fear to some sort of understanding and peace. And what happened was I got to the end of the film and I realized there was so much more. See, this whole experience and the things that you and Deb are talking about, I feel like I'm a mental midget among giants. I kind of translate into the common parlance of my viewer. And what I try to do is I try to tell stories that'll help them understand these very, very high concepts. And so what happened to me was this, and I think this is what this whole abduction thing is part and parcel about. One of the things that prevents us from understanding quanta and being in touch with this field is this ego, this idea of control, this idea of separation. And these interactions literally crush that ego. When you realize that you are not in control of that particular situation, you lose your mind a little bit. but what happens is there's a very interesting ancillary to that, because you realize for the first time in your life that there is more, there is other. One of the things I posit at the end of the film is I say, you know, what is it about these bright, shiny lights in the sky that make me want to feel more, that make me want to be a better person? It doesn't make any sense. It's like a non sequitur, right? And what it is that you start to realize that all of us are interconnected. You know, I don't care what kind of, say, faith tradition you're from. You know, you have, let's just say, very, very religious people. You have agnostic people, and you have, you know, materialistic people. But, you know, even if you think of it as Big Bang, or you think of it as a creator God, every particle in every one of us is from that same source. We're either that same stardust that came from that Big Bang, or we're the same sliver of God in each one of us, right? What it is, and Whitley Strieber is part of this film too, he says something I think very poignant. He says, we are all at our base profoundly equal, profoundly important, profoundly part of each other. And so what happened was, at the end of this film, I went, I haven't said anything. All I've done is I've overcome this fear. But what do I do with that? So the first film is called Alien Abduction Answers, and I'm raising funds now for the second film of what I hope will be a trilogy. The second film is called Alien Abduction Awareness. The idea is that after you overcome your fear and you have some sort of understanding, you need to take that information and you need to integrate it, because facts are not wisdom. And wisdom comes with ability to, you know, manipulate the information and to use it, to apply it. And so I'm in that kind of world now, where I've been confronted by this. I've overcome that basic fear. There's still an emotional tinge to everything, but there's more to learn, and there's more to gain, and there's more to do. And so that's what the second film is about taking us from that sense of understanding to some sense of integration of that information. Then hopefully a third film called Alien Abduction Ascension. And you know, Dave keeps saying woo, and I don't mean woo by that. Once again, all of my work is for the lowest common denominator and the highest brilliant mind. It's about us. I say always, my film is not about the shiny lights in the sky, because that's not the only facet of it. It's about you. It's about me. It's about us. It's about our consciousness. It's about our species. It's about our minds and our souls. So the third one would be Ascension. And what that means is this: I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of education you've had. I don't care what your origin is or your religious belief. We have a shared experience of being born here, of bumping our heads, of crawling, of being a toddler, of walking and eventually running. And so after that integration of information, now what do we do? Look at this screen. All of you are past that. You have not only integrated this information, but now you're pouring it out into the world. You're doing something about it. There are many people who are casual observers who might find this a curiosity and sit back on their sofa and say, boy, that's an interesting thought exercise, but never take the next step to wisdom and then to action. And so that's what it is. So to answer your question, I'm raising funds right now for the second film, and it's proving difficult. But yes, sir. Or yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to make one comment, and then we'll move on to the next thing. You said something that's profound, and I want to give you a scientist perspective on what you said.
Yes, sir.
This is Science Bob Show. Every electron, every photon, every proton, every neutron, every gluon, et cetera, you can't tell one of them from the other. They're all absolutely identical. What does it matter that it's arranged into a blue person or a red person or a loving person or an angry person? We're all made of the same stuff. And the higher weight stuff came from stars, the stars that blew up. They're the worst imaginable destructive events in the cosmos are what made us.
Hmm.
I mean, you take the most randomizing event possible, and the bigger atoms in our body came from that massive destruction. So out of chaos comes beauty, because the light of human consciousness is something I hope we never lose. We hang on the precipice all the time of losing it, and it's something we don't want to lose, because we are star stuff. We are all, each of us, no matter what entity we are, made of the same ergs of energy, the same particles, no matter what form they take. And that is, if you take that in and listen to it, it's profound. I mean, it's just amazing. We are all, each and every entity with a consciousness, made out of the same stuff. So, John, I really want to thank you for that perspective. That was wonderful. So, Debs, when you were in your early childhood, I'm sure you had a standout event that said to you, wow, I am really different. Can you give us an example?
Ugh, every day of my of my childhood. I will say I had many. And the earliest one, I think I was 3, where I literally had, little beings outside my window asking me to come out and play in the middle of the night that I called space monkeys. Now I recognize were, the pretty much traditional gray beings. But when I was 9, we moved. We moved all over the country because of my dad's job first in the military and then Justice Department. But we moved to Georgia, and there was this, and you see this in the film. The story's told, but my brother, who was a year younger than I, woke me up in the middle of the night when I was 9. He was 8. And said, the forest is on fire. We live by a forest, and we have to go out there. And it's just crazy. Why would little kids leave their house, especially a house that was ruled by very, strict parents, in the middle of the night, and go running out into the forest when you think there's a forest fire? It was just outrageous. But we did, and we ran out there, and what we saw was a huge mothership, and there was sound, and there were lights, and the things on the ground, like the twigs and the pine cones, were levitating. And I believe it was, at that moment I realized I don't think everybody has this kind of experience. And indeed, the next morning, when we woke up, and my brother said we can't ever tell anybody because we'll get in trouble. After that, he didn't ever want to talk about it again, and still says, "Oh, it was just we just had a weird dream." Like, we both had the same dream, right? So, so even he and I are super close. Love him with my whole heart and soul. But even though we're super close, we still are different in our perspective of things. So that was a moment when I realized I'm not quite the same as everybody else that I'm around. Later, I did find other people who are just like that, like Lala. Lala Bright is extremely gifted psychic and energy person. She is not of she's definitely more connected to the star stuff than most humans are. So they're out there, but and there are more people starting to come online. We all have these abilities, by the way. We are all part of this huge phenomenon, but most of us are capabilities have been dormant. They've been, the little switches in our DNA have been turned to the off position so we could have a viable human experience. But now we've squeezed the blood out of that turnip and we're ready to move on, onward and upward and outward and inward. So they're starting to come back on, and we're starting to see, goodness, back in the late 70s, early 80s, the first time I ever heard the word channeling, I was blown away. I'm like, oh, that's what I experience. But I'd never heard that word before. Now everybody channels. You talk to anybody at a party, somebody at that party will say, oh, I channel, like it's nothing. Or energy work. Oh yeah, I took a Reiki class and now I help people heal. It's that 100th monkey thing, where you hit a certain percentage of a population who learns something new or rediscover something new, and then suddenly the whole starts to come into coherency with that. Again, quantum entanglement.
Yeah, so just let me give the audience an example of how you can see in your everyday life living with people like you and Lala and others. And so Dave called tonight. He wanted to talk about something. And Lala says, well, Dave, I see this. And then Dave comes back having talked to another one of these people, and the two of them have seen exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then we talk to you, and you've seen the same thing as both of them. Now, there are little tiny variances, but each of you brought a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of amazing. Each of you brought a different perspective, but it's exactly the same narrative from three different people.
Right. I like to tell my clients and students this. My view of this is we are an infinitely faceted, perfect jewel, holographic jewel. And each facet is a point of perspective. My facet sees life from my viewpoint, and your facet sees life from your viewpoint, and we share it holographically, and yet we are all part of the same thing. We're all seeing the same thing, but from different points of perspective. Some are slightly different, some are so vastly different that we don't even feel connected to what another person is saying. I will share this recording later with some people, and some people will say, wow, that's exactly my experience, or that's quite like my experience. And others will say, that woman is crazy as a loon. And that's okay, because that's the viewpoint they're looking at life from in that moment, and none of them are wrong.
So I want to tell something to the audience. And I want you to give your webpage. So Debs has a webpage. You can go on this webpage and you can see a video of Debs where she's doing something on this thing. And Lala and I were looking at it. We're going, wait a minute. There's this little thing flying right across in front of Debs. There's a bloody fairy. And so right there, go look at this video and you will see a fairy flying in front of Debs on this video that she has on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, you too can wake up and see reality. Now, I want to ask two more things, and we'll move on. So, Debs, you have what I consider your emotional intelligence as high as anyone's I've ever met. Wow, it's amazing. Now, emotional intelligence is your ability to interact with people's personalities and emotions, etc., in a genius-like way if you have a really high emotional IQ, whereas other people, I can do math with the best of them and physics. So I have a high IQ over there, and my emotional intelligence still needs working on. Okay, so when did you know or feel that you had this emotional intelligence, and did you have it from the beginning or did you develop it?
I never knew I had it till you just said it, actually.
But you do
I was
have.
not aware.
Okay,
No,
so
I
I
just
mean,
know I'm me,
it's
and
just kind of
this is
amazing how you list. You and I have a bunch of synchronicities in our relationship, in that we both love Abraham Maslow, and we know that humanity ought to live by the hierarchy of needs. And if we did, everybody on the planet would be better off if we all lived by Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. All right, so let's not go read it, audience. Okay, so the the other thing I want to remind the audience of is, there is, since this is Science Bob, there is a technical paper by Donald Hoffman that says the things that you were saying, and they are proven using a mathematical theorem. And the mathematical theorem says the following: with these senses and this body and this brain connecting to the consciousness, what Deb says is each facet sees things from a different perspective. Hoffman has proven this mathematically, because we can't all be seeing things from a different perspective and actually be seeing reality. And Hoffman has proven that entities that evolve seeing reality are selected against. Entities that have evolved like we are, to see the things that help us live longer, reproduce quicker, and survive happier and better, we are better off in the evolutionary system. So what does that say? Well, I'll give it to you in layman's terms. We all live in the matrix,
yes.
whether you like it or not. So, Debs, I know you're aware of Hoffman's thinking, but
Yes.
what was your thinking the first time you read Hoffman and say, I already knew that was right?
It was just, more than anything, I smiled, because I thought, oh, there's at least one other human being who feels the same way I do. This is nice. And then it also validated my compulsion ever since I was a small child to study science, because science helps me explain the things that are natural to me and others.
Dave?
Yeah.
We got about 2 minutes. Let's get to a couple audience questions here. At least sneak one in here. And let's go to Stargazer. Do you think people are more subject to abductions while in REM sleep, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.?
Yeah, I do, because they're less analytical and they're more able to connect to the quantum mind.
What do you think, John?
I think the reason that all of this activity is around all of us is because we have switched off those filters, that in fact we are screaming out at the universe the language that is understood. If you were in the middle of Thailand and you heard somebody screaming out English in the middle of a marketplace, you'd be attracted to that, because that would be the only person speaking English in Thailand. I think what happens is when our intentions are turned towards this, or our filters are turned off, so in REM sleep, we are more in contact with that consciousness, and that is a conduit for contact.
Makes a lot of sense.
Like language is universal. It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you notice, a lot of abductees will talk about how many times communication is not verbal. It's emotional, it's light, it's feeling, it's intention, because everybody understands what fear is. Everybody understands what love is. Everybody understands urgency. Everybody.
Yep. So Debs has, and I know Lala does, she looks at the patterns these things draw in the sky when they fly over us, and she gets something out of it.
Yeah.
And she and in return, she says, okay, I see you. Let's do this for me. And they do. It's pretty amazing. Dave?
Science Bob and friends. We got Science Bob along with John Yost and Deb Shakti until the top of the hour, about another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We're having a lot of fun tonight. We'll take your questions. We'll continue on talking about aliens, abduction, the science behind it. What do we really know? Nothing. some of us tonight will go for a ride unexpectedly. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. This is our resident Foo Fighter _ Maddie.
Another rapid and wonderful half hour. And see, we're helping _ Maddie. That's good.
Doesn't he look like Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters?
He does.
Yeah, my favorite band.
Yep. There goes my hero. Watch him as he goes.
Anything that Dave Grohl is in is my favorite.
Yeah. Times Like These, my favorite song. So.
Yeah, I've got to tell you, I'm a little more an alternative guy. I've got Tool or Deftones or
same.
All the time.
Yeah.
YouTube music is the greatest invention ever.
It's wonderful. It is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did something really, really funny. At least I thought it was funny today. I was this morning before I went to work. My daughter was on FaceTime with me with my grandson, and my grandson started acting up. He's only like 2 months old.
Aww.
So I'm like, "Hey, buddy," I said, "Are you mad?" I said, "You play this, you sing this with Grandpa for Mom and Dad and everybody who's listening." And it was that song. Well, what's the girl's name? Hold on, I got it right here. But you know that F you and your mom and your sister and your dog and that one. I'm such a jerk.
What a
I got it cranked right.
What a fun grandpa.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I sent the baby's overalls.
Yeah. Yeah, that Gail, that ABCDEFU song. That one.
Yeah.
That one I played for. Like, come on, sing it with Grandpa here. I don't think my daughter was impressed, but that's okay.
ABCDEFU. I know this song.
Yeah. Yeah, that one. I like that song. Yep.
I sing it in traffic a lot.
That's one way to get your aggression out without going into road rage.
Mm.
Oh, goodness.
I'll pick on you the next half hour, John.
Sir, I'm just enjoying the ride. It is a real pleasure to be with all of you. I adore Debs and Bob. You know how grateful I am to you. God bless you.
Oh, my gratitude. My gratitude to you. I don't know how to get there. I mean, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a hugger. I'm a hugger. So you're gonna see me, and I'm gonna hug you, big guy.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm ready to be hugged.
Talk about that movie.
Nothing more than feelings.
Feelings.
Mm-hmm.
John's a good singer, by the way. He'll croon you to death.
Love it. Love it.
Oh, until you throw things at me, then I'll shut up.
I think John and I have agreed to sing some Buffalo Springfield in San Francisco.
Oh, baby.
Oh my!
That's right. I touched the button there, didn't I, Bob?
You did, but I knew every word.
I know you did.
The minute you said it, I hadn't heard it in over 20 years.
That's right, man. I'm telling you, that's the music right there.
There's a song for every situation.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir.
And Grant Cameron's book on downloads of music coming to the major artists, it happens all the time.
Oh,
Every day.
I get downloads of math and engineering, but other people get music.
Yeah.
I get nothing. I'm boring.
Phil gets art,
Yeah, let's see what Dirty made for us tonight here. Hold on.
Let's orbs, yay!
That's great.
He's got
Orbs
and trolling Bob's camera.
There you go.
Yeah, trolling Bob's camera at his house.
There you go. There's my
Awesome.
camera, and it has the little Wi-Fi antenna on top, just like mine does.
That was so
You know it.
awesome.
Bravo, brother.
Yeah.
Bravo.
That's
All right.
great, Phil. That's amazing.
Have a good night, boils and ghouls. I'll see you later.
All right, Phil.
See you, Dirty Filth.
Love.
All right, there's Dirty Filth. I want to say, I want to say thank you to. Oh, we're getting a lot of feedback here. Somebody have something on there?
That's Miss
All right.
Lala.
Thank you tonight to Pam H, Bob, Dennis, Lori, Obi, Deb, Marty, Rob, Maddie, and Lala for the super chat. La 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 la. La 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 la. And here we go, everyone. Next half hour. Right now. Let's do it. Okay. Here it comes. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. So glad you're with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can listen on Spotify. You can listen on Apple iTunes. Any major podcast form. We are there, darn it. Check it on out. Make sure you hit subscribe as well. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Final time for Science Bob and friends. Dr. Bobbert McGwier is with us, a.k.a. Science Bob. And, yeah, we love it. When Bob is here, we also have our special guest, Deb Shakti, and John Yost. Science Bob, let's kick it off with a couple audience questions here. Let's go to fellow scientist Eric Markham. What we consider solid matter is mostly interstitial space between atoms. Is this correct?
That is correct. And the reason the atoms stay apart and all of us can sit on these chairs is the Pauli exclusion principle, which keeps all of us together and not crashing through into nothingness. So Eric is completely correct.
All right, move on to Raz. Can I get myself a crash retrieval admittance by the government before we all turn to dust?
So unfortunately, Raz, the problem is you'd have to get a admittance from the private corporations where the government chose to hide all of it in their basements. So the Freedom of Information Act could never find out the information. We've been lied to, Raz. Are you shocked?
I called it. I'm just letting Bob know because I like it when I get to tell Bob I'm right every in a blue moon.
He was right and I was wrong.
I called it.
Though that's for now.
I called it. And you can't take that away, Science Bob.
No. We are not.
Ever.
We are not getting the Roswell files immediately. It's going to be years.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, can we go to a question or you got another one?
No, we are. Oh, there is one more. Let's go to Eugene in Philadelphia. What was the name of Ultraman's dinosaur enemy?
Oh, my.
I have no idea.
I'm way too old to remember that.
Hold on. Now, Ultraman's dinosaur.
I thought he fought many dinosaur enemies.
All right.
The species.
There was Poseidon. Who else? The giant pteranodon, Gorgosaurus, Isa Mikasa, dragon. Oh yeah, he was all over the place.
All right. So let's.
Hold on. We got one more. Yeah, we got another one here. This one from Mark. Do you think we will get all the answers on the other side? Deb, let's get your opinion on that.
Yeah, the answers are already there. All answers are already there. They all exist forever. and we have access to it. You don't have to wait till you go to the other side to do that. Some of the work we do together allows you to access that, what I call the cloud. So, yeah.
Very nice. Take it away, Bob.
Okay, so John, you've made a movie about experiences, and you want to go to Revelation and then Ascension. So, are you having ongoing experiences? And if so, what can you describe them to the audience? And if you don't feel comfortable,
No, I mean, yes, sir. I'll be happy to. I think the biggest problem in the whole world is people don't tell the truth.
right?
So I really to tell the truth to themselves and tell the truth to everybody else. That's actually one of the things that I was healed of. During my life, I lied many times. I mean, I still bear the mark on my body, and I made up all kinds of lies about. I got shot. I got hit by lightning. A shark bit me. Somebody stabbed me. And what this has done to me is it's kind of made me a very, very honest guy. So I thank you for the question. People have these revelations. They have these things that happen to them. And, you have this mistake. We're such a push button culture. You think you flip a button and everything is fine. But there's a process. Mm-hmm. And I genuinely kind of thought, okay, well, look, these were situations that happened to me as a kid. And I had a really, really incredible situation happen to me in Revelation. And I made the movie and I thought, fini, there we are. And what happened was I don't want to say spanked, but I was definitely shaken into a realization that this was not the end. It was absolutely the beginning. I thought all my experiences were over, but I've shared some things with Debs, and we're talking about the next film and stuff like this. But for example, I've worked at the same place for over 13 years, and it takes an hour and 10 minutes, 12 minutes to get there. It does not take 3 hours. It does not take 3.5, 4, 5 hours. It doesn't take those things. Ending up in places that I have no idea where I am, this sort of thing. I don't live in a very nice area to share with you. And so I've had for many years a lot of security on my home. And so how I get outside in the middle of the night with all the doors sealed and locked and alarms, that's an interesting thing. And we're going to explore that as well. Also, some things that I haven't talked to Debs about. What's occurred is that this cracking of this egg, this shell that I have protected myself from, now that it's open and I'm starting to assimilate the information for myself, what's happening is there are floods of information coming to me about other occasions and other things that have occurred in my life. And I am completely gobsmacked because, once again, I had this idea that, okay, well, the film is over and that's all there is to it and they're done with me. I've teased a lot. I say, I'm a dud, they threw me back. I was too small, I was a small fish. But there's more work to be done. And I think it all boils down to this. The example I gave, once you are tuned, all of you were talking about quanta and how we are this receiver and this sort of thing. I often think of us in layman terms as a radio, and this radio itself is a receiver. There aren't little people in it that speak out of a speaker. This is picking up waves, energy. And, people could scoff at that 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, they would scoff. But the idea is that you have to power it. And then after you power it, you have to tune it. And as soon as you tune it, then you can't help but hear. You cannot help but hear. And so, yes, sir, beyond all peradventure, my my adventures continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I got to Virginia Tech.
Yes.
I got into the Hume Center for National Security and Technology, and I heard from the inside that stuff was about to start coming out because I was on the inside. So I saw Chris Bledsoe interviewed by Richard Dolan, and I picked up the phone. No, I didn't. I wrote him an email and said, Chris, I'm only an hour and a half away. I'm a scientist. You're having a lot of really bad problems on the social media, convincing people this stuff is real. Says, come over, let's see what I can do about some instruments and help you. So I went over, and it rained for 3 days. I think the rain was arranged so he could tell me his entire life story from beginning to that moment. And I mean, he told me everything. It was like he just knew I was the right person to tell. I mean, he held nothing back. I know stuff he still hasn't told. Okay, so anyway, and I'm not going to, but so we went outside. The last night I was there was clear, and boom, 2 40-foot orbs fly right over our head. And I knew at that moment my perspective had changed. But I went, okay, Chris has these episodes. That's not me, but maybe I can help him. So I go home, and I immediately began having episodes. I had apports of water thrown in my face. I mean, miraculous healings. And then I picked up the phone. I says, okay, Chris, I says, I got a hitchhiker, came home, and I'm going to help you the way I said it is. But the first thing I want to do is help you with getting ready for UFO Con 2020. Yeah. So we went out there to UFO Con 2020, and I meet Dave. Okay. So then just my last little piece is Lala's boyfriend was named Dave, and Dave was into the stuff that she was into. So she listened to Dave on the radio, and on the internet, because Dave was her dead boyfriend, and Dave had listened to the things and so here she is. And then she knew Science Bob was on here, and she offered me a reading when my mother died, and here we are. These synchronicities, they force you to open your mind once you've been exposed. And your brain is tuned, exactly like you say, to see these synchronicities when they happen. Yes. Take it away, buddy.
No, I agree with you, Bob. I mean, one of the things that I find very interesting about the whole phenomena is the synchronicities that many people have. Whether it's seeing the exact same things or play out. Look, nobody's perfect. And I think the skeptics to all of this tend to believe that, Deb, if I call the number 10, you need to call the number 10, not 9.9, but 10. Bob needs to call 10, not 10.1. And John, you're way down at the bottom when you're calling a 4. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But the point that I'm meaning is this: you're not going to be right all the time. You're not going to be 100% accurate. If you have somebody who is there and you could get 80%, 70% accuracy, 85%, that's pretty damn good. When you have a bunch of different people looking into a potential situation, whether it's contact, whether it's paranormal or something supernatural going on, and 3 or 4 people are seeing the exact same thing or close to it. I mean, science would die for 85% results on most experiments that they take part in.
Dave, I'm sorry to jump in, Bob, but one of the things that I've been sharing with people is this. I'm in my late 50s, and so I sometimes get a chuckle out of the younger generation when they talk about my truth. Back in our day, if you said my truth, that meant you had an opinion that no one else shared. And I used to kind of cringe at that, but then after these experiences and the way I've been thinking about things, I think about it in terms like this, and Deb's heard me say this 1,000 times. It reminds me of that old Chestnut, you take the 3 smartest people we take 3 Bobs, and we throw them in a black room, and we say, hey, Bobs, what do you see in there? Well, it's completely black, and somebody yells out, well, it's obviously some sort of a spear. And somebody says, are you crazy? It's a whip. And somebody says, no, are you a nut? This is a boulder. And you turn on the light, and it's an elephant. Now, each one of these people, we've already determined that they're the smartest people on the planet, right? So it's not like they're fabricating these observations. They're kind of fumbling around in the dark. And think about all of the variables there. Number one, they're dealing with something that they can't see, and they're using limited senses, okay, or senses that they're not used to rely on. And they're wrapping their arms around a piece of whatever it is. And to the best of their ability, think about this, they have to take that input in, they have to digest it, and then they have to, in the best words they can use, the lexicon they have, convey that information. It doesn't mean they're wrong. In fact, they'd fight you to the death because it is their truth. There's no pretense there. And once again, what's happened to us as a species, not the 4 of you, or not the 3 of you, but we have this idea that this empirical data is identified by us. This is why you have these fights on Twitter. You say, happy Wednesday, and you have 1,000 people scream at you and say, what the hell do you have against Tuesday? And then you have another 1,000 say, you're a Thursday denier. What are we talking about? Why are we fighting? We're fighting about nothing. But this observation, the thing that you talked about and what Deb's talked about the different facets, and what you talked about, Bob, the mathematical reasoning behind that and the proof of that, is that this is a combination. This is an elephant. We're testing this without the tools that we feel comfortable with, and we're exploring for the first time, really, in a concerted effort, to try to wrap our arms around this elephant. And we're coming out in these pieces, and they don't seem to jive, but that does not mean they are not empirically true. And that's why my heart has changed about this whole thing.
Okay, great. I want to point out that, again, we're talking about quantum,
Yes, sir.
transformative, and what does quantum mechanicals Schrodinger equation give you? It gives you the probability of where you will find something. Quantum mechanics says God plays dice with the world. And every event that you observe, it has a probability of being this, or this. This is straight science, the things you're saying. You get the 3 guys in the room, each of them sees through something because each of them were independent observers, and they looked at it, they collapsed the wave function in their own particular perspective. This is all science, but we got to figure out just how to put it in language that both we and scientists can work with so we can build the future.
Sounded smarter when you said it, Bob.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just telling you how it is. This is just science to me, but now I'm living both sides of the equation, if you will, the forcing function and the description function. So,
Deb, I have a question for you, Deb. And
All
here's a scenario that played out. Okay, we see today's UFO community really siding with the nuts and bolts crowd of the government agencies and everybody in between. Yet I'm a firm believer there is something way more than that. Nuts and bolts are such a minimal part of what we are talking about, and I find that frustrating because it usually takes discussion and debate to a whole different level.
Right.
That being said, Tim, who's our UFO guy, when he was in Utah earlier this summer, him and Terry Hall and Scowling Greg O'Brien, they were in a motorhome that was filled with gear. And I called Terry, happened to be 11:11, and I said, I need you to point your camera about 11:30. Now, I'm in British Columbia. They're in Vernal, Utah. And lo and behold, Terry moves his camera, and there are 4 UFOs.
Yeah.
How do we explain the distance of 2,000 miles. I have no idea that it is there. I'm just going by a gut feeling.
Well,
Luck?
no, there is no luck. There is quantum consciousness, and we're all part of it, and you tapped into it. I had I run a contact group, a CE5 group here in Kansas City. During the pandemic, we couldn't get together, so we did it over Zoom. Okay, outside, Zooming with each other, and I have people in that group from all over the world and all over the United States and Canada. And we were all seeing, the people, local people were seeing really fantastic phenomena that night, and we were pointing it out according to the constellations and the directions and everything, and the degrees, and that was awesome. And then we had a friend in Pennsylvania saying she saw the same thing from her perspective, and she was getting ready to say something before any of us shouted out, "Oh, look over there by Orion." So she was chatting and she said, "I see something by Orion." It's because it depends on what your vibrational state is, where you are in your frequency, as to what you are able to attune to. It's just like John said, it's just like Bob and all of us are working with radios and antennas and things like that. We are able to tune our internal transceiver to different things. Now, those who are still in the nuts and bolts community, it's fine. They're in a different grade of school. You know, you can't teach trig to most kindergartners. They have to get some fundamentals first. So these phenomenon show up to people according to where they are on their path. And that means in their vibrational frequency, so that they can perceive it in a certain way, accept it, integrate it, and then suddenly new pieces start to come online and they're able to perceive. So I don't judge anyone. Sometimes I get a little frustrated because not everybody's, up to speed, but I'm not up to speed with the beings who are interacting with me. They probably think I'm a fool, So I just say, have compassion, don't get too frustrated, and know that everyone is learning at their own pace and in their own way. But like John said, we're all getting a piece of the reality, and our purpose, I believe, is to help everyone put those pieces together so we get the whole picture.
Debs, can you give us your website, please, before we leave?
Oh yeah, it's debsshakti.com, DEBZSHAKTI.com. Thank you so much, Bob.
John, do you have one?
People can look up alien abduction :answers. If they Google that, they'll find 1,000 links.
Okay, so I want to say one more quantum thing to bore the audience with my science. When these minds come and they bring their perspective, they constrain a variable that they want to see. They want to see a nuts and bolts craft so they can get a weapon or an energy field out of it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they constrain it. But what happens in quantum mechanics is if you constrain one variable, you blow open the complementary variable, and it can get ugly and energetic big time. If you squeeze it to one thing, the energy field is spread over infinity. I mean, so you come down for a weapon, you're going to get bit. That's the way quantum mechanics works.
Bitten by Science Bob as we wrap up another episode of Science Bob and Friends. We love Dr. Bobbert McGwier around here. He's a good friend of this show. Good friend. Can't grow facial hair worth anything, but I'll tell you, we love him around here. And thank you, Deb Shakti and John Yost, for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Real pleasure to have you all here. And John, can't wait to meet you at UFOCon 2023, along with seeing you again, Science Bob. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Coming up next on The Big Show, as we go into hour number 3. Swamp Dweller is back with another spooky story. Then our resident Timbit, little Timmy Senor, gears us up for the UFO report that he still calls UAPs. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Great job, guys.
That
Great
was a
job.
great show. I'm so
I'll
happy
give you a few
guys
claps.
came in.
I'll give you a
I
few
give y'all
claps.
claps. Thank you so much. That was super
Bob,
fun.
you can talk with them for a couple minutes here. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Maybe we'll check the energy in my
Thanks, David.
outsource.
Thanks.
Oh, that was wonderful. That was delightful.
That was awesome. Thanks so much. And
Thanks, Bob.
I know she can't hear us now, but Lala just made a big donation to Spaced Out Radio.
No,
That
she
was
can
really
hear us.
sweet.
The
That
YouTube
was very
parts,
sweet.
the YouTube part stays live during the break.
Cool.
Oh,
Thanks,
great.
Lala. Thank you, honey. I hope you're feeling better.
And she too will be in San Francisco with us. So
Perfect. Yeah, Bob, I wasn't prepared when you started to ask me because I'm going to be in Roswell. I'm going to Roswell UFO Expo the week before, actually, and then I go to San Fran.
Yeah, I had all that pulled up in case you couldn't find it, and then we went on
Thank
to
you.
something
Thank
else.
you.
And
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Anyway, but I'm just so excited, so delighted, and grateful. And
well, I hope that this set of things yields the publicity that you need in order to increase the viewership, so that I want you to be able to take care of you and your company and to make that next film.
Well, thank you. That's the goal. That really is the goal. We had some really great news that the film is going to go international. It was released last May in North America, but on April 15th, there'll be a global pay-per-view event. So it's going to be worldwide. We're very excited.
Oh, great. Well, let me know when that happens. I might watch it again, even though I already own it.
Well, there's maybe don't watch it from me or the show, but there's going to be a panel discussion. So I'm not in charge of any of that.
Right.
I don't even know if they're going to ask me to speak. Maybe they've heard enough of me. But yeah, it's going to be a big deal. And
well, where is this to be held?
It's don't tell Dave, but it's KGRA. They're a big network, and they have I can't remember 30 some shows.
No, I know it. I had a terrific interview with Peter Robbins on KGRA.
Okay, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I was approached by their president, one of their hosts and their president, to have an international pay-per-view event, and so I put them with the distributors in New York. And everything has been worked out, and so the date is 4/15. So I'm pretty darn jazzed because I can't imagine. You can't imagine how many emails and contacts I get from the UK, Germany, Hungary, Australia,
Netherlands, Japan,
the Netherlands,
New Zealand. Everybody's mad at me because I put it out there. It was being released in May, and they're like, "Where is it? We can't see it."
Debs, have you put these good folks together, Lala and Bob, with our friend from overseas, your sister?
Oh, yeah, no, she has.
I've talked to them about it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Because, man, that would be crazy business right there.
Yep.
Everybody getting together. That's so fascinating to me. And what I'm really kind of hoping, Bob, is, part of this next film is talking about how people use consciousness, as a tool, and how they can access that and interact with that field, to literally go out and ask for phenomena.
The different contact modalities.
Yes.
Like Ray Hernandez speaks
of. Debs and Lala and others are going to participate in the Bigelow Institute Consciousness Study.
Outstanding.
So, and it's a quadruple blind experiment proving to scientists' satisfaction that things they say they can do, they can do.
Outstanding.
So that's the kind. And then Lala and Debs and others can go right out in the field and say, "Y'all, will you please show up and do a little something for us?" And they show
And they
up and do a
will.
little something for you.
They do.
And Lala regularly says, I've seen all of you. Can you bring some of your friends? And new things show up. That's weird thing came.
The skyfish show up.
The skyfish is what she calls it. She calls it skyfish. And it's like nothing I have ever seen before anywhere.
That is awesome.
Thank you, Steve Wolf.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. Thank you very, very much,
Beautiful
sir.
comment, Steve.
On that note, I have to say goodnight to all of you because I have to get ready for the third hour. You guys all get to go to bed, and I get to stay up for another 2 hours. So,
and then travel.
No, not travel yet. Oh, yeah, tonight. It's going to be a rough morning. Rough morning.
Nope.
Science Bob, good night to you. Debs, thank you, my dear.
Thank you so much.
John, pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Thank you so much, Dave. Bye, John.
Take care, guys.
Bye, Debs.
All right, there we go. Well, let's say goodnight to all of them. And say a big thank you tonight to all of our super chatters. And let me just do that. Super chatters tonight: Pam H, Bob, Dennis, Lori, Obi, Deb, Marty, Rob, Maddie ×2, Lala ×2. Thank you so much for the love, everybody. And yeah, let's party in Vegas soon, shall we? Who wants to party with me in Vegas? info@spacedoutradio.com will get you there. Thank you, Joan, for the super chat as well. Here we go, everyone.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Wastel. Wastel is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Knight's Landing. I'm afraid of that place. I haven't been back in a long time. I'm scared to go there. Somewhere in Northern California, an hour from the coast in a dry valley, there's a place. This place was my second home. I spent almost every weekend there for many years until I was a teenager. A property in the outskirts of a boring small town near a creek in a well-sized patch of woods. We did a lot of things there, and we had room and confidence. A creaky old house, dimly lit, covered by trees, and a small garden to the side. The light only went so far from the windows and porch before it was total darkness, and a short walk to the other two buildings, old, long, empty garages filled with tables and chairs for parties. Probably about 50 feet long, 10 feet wide, side by side, and although they said no further than 20 feet from each other, they both had very different atmospheres. One was a beacon of light in the darkness. rather a checkpoint, before it was total darkness. They were bustling with life from family gatherings and parties, but never the second. Only 20 feet away, it was always too dark even to see. And on the other side of that, well, that's the scariest part of that place. The 4 mysterious homemade concrete graves. Right next to this building, and beyond that debris, giant rocks and tons of firewood picture almost a scrapyard with 0 light. The building was scary, but at least it was closer to the light. I have plenty of stories from here, ghosts and intruders and otherworldly and not worldly things. But this time, I'm going to concentrate on beyond those property lines, beyond the empty field adjacent to the old building, Cache Creek. Back then, the rules were don't go into that building at night, but we always did. They told us not to stray past the graves at night, but we always did. They told us not to go to the scrapyard, but yet we always did. But what we would not do is go past that field. It was almost an unspoken rule. No one ever brought it up. No one ever suggested attempting to make the trip, and we were reckless as kids, but not suicidal. We remember when we would sleep over when we were younger. My grandma would put us in the house before 12. That creaky old house. Too many for one story, 3-bedroom house. You could see the end of it from where you enter. A straight shot. Living room, dining room, kitchen. All the rooms to the left. Room 1 by the front door, room 2 by the end of the living room, and room 3 by the dining room and the bathroom and the kitchen. And then out the back door. We all funneled into the living room while the adults slept in the rooms. We slept on the floor, and we'd stay up longer than them, but not for long. We'd get too scared. I'd remember no one talking about these things, just a look on everyone's face. Then everyone lays down and pretends nothing happened. These types of occurrences were daily at this place. But there is something that I will never forget more than anything. One night, while everybody was asleep except for us kids, it was maybe 30 minutes after everybody went to sleep, and the house was all quiet except for us whispering away and talking. Honestly, when I started hearing the noises at first, I thought they were maybe just insects or maybe a cat or something. But then we started hearing distant screams far off. A chill ran down my spine instantly. Suddenly it sounds like something slams into the front door and starts scratching at the walls, the door, and the sides of the house. Everywhere. It sounds like something is running around the house. The scratches, like I said, started at the front door, and then suddenly they were at the back door, then the right, and all at once. Sometimes it just sounded like one finger, and other times it sounded like a full claw. We were all scared out of our wits. The scratching then stopped, and for a moment everything went silent before we heard a massive thud on the top of the roof. I felt fragile under it. I felt like at any moment that the roof would cave in on top of us, and we would be this thing's meal, whatever it was. Eventually, the adults woke up and went to see what was going on, asking if we were horsing around. Once they saw how scared we were, they walked outside. The wind seemed to calm, and everything seemed to drift off into silence. I survived that night somehow, and so did all of us. Next day, when I asked the adults what they saw, they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't tell me if it was wolves, big coyotes, nothing. No response at all. All I knew is I heard something that night. I was young, maybe 5 or 6 at the time, and now I'm 22, and I can tell you for a fact that my reckless curiosity still gets the best of me sometimes. But I know one thing is there was something out there that night. I can't explain what it was.
And that's why we love the Swamp Dweller around here, is each and every night, Monday through Friday, to kick off hour number 3. Swampy tells us another spooky story, and we appreciate him coming on in. If you want more stories just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you can get a few more just for yourself. From the swamp to the stars, it's time to bring in our resident Timbit, Little Timmy Senor, and the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Timmy Senor, it's been a weird night around SOR headquarters tonight, man.
Yeah.
You were on the phone with me when there was some weird stuff going on, man. Weird stuff. You've never really heard Davey speak like that before.
It was a little creepy. I was waiting to hear something like a buzzing or a vacuum cleaner or something, and then just hear your wife be like, ... No, Dave. I was waiting for it.
Oh, yeah. So I should tell people what happened here earlier on. This happened about an hour and a half before showtime.
Yeah.
We get back from hockey, my son and myself, and he's looking for his mom. So he walks down the hall, and he walks and stops right at our main bathroom. Then he comes back to me and says, Daddy, there's something in the bathroom. I said, what? He goes, I saw something, but I don't know if it was real or my imagination. So I said, well, what did you see? He goes, I saw something in the bathtub. And I'm like, well, what did you see? He goes, I don't know how to explain it. It was there for a second, and then it just went up and gone. So I'm like, okay. So I get him to draw it out, and it almost looks like he's drawing two hands with the elbows connected. Okay, and that was it. So a little bit later, like I'm talking like 8-10 minutes later, I just sit down in the studio to prepare for tonight's show, and Tim and I are having a quick convo about what we're going to talk about tonight. And I get a text message from Mrs. SOR saying that she took the dogs outside and she quickly called them in because she felt there was something not too good outside in my neighbor's yard. So I got Tim on the phone, and I'm kind of trying to tune into everything, and Tim doesn't know what the hell he's going on because he's Mr. Nuts and Bolts here, right?
Dave was scared, so he called Tim. Let's be clear.
I wasn't scared.
He's a little scared.
It was eerie. It was eerie.
Yeah.
Not scared, though. So I go outside, and my neighbor's yard seems darker than normal. And I mentioned that to Tim. And then, I don't know about anybody else there who's been taken before. For me, the trigger is when I hear the song from Pink Floyd, Is There Anybody Out There, in my head. And I said, crap, to Tim. I said, I think I'm going on a ride tonight. So I got on the phone with Science Bob and Lala Bright, explained to them what was going on after I hung out with Tim. And then Travis Willier Moostus, our resident astral traveler. It's funny. They don't know each other, but they describe the exact same thing of what it seemed like what I thought in my mind. What I was picturing in my mind, as sci-fi as this sounds, is like this round creature with like tentacles, long. I pictured it as arms, but both Lala and Travis saw it as a creature with tentacles hanging on out. Then Travis picks up an arrowhead shape UFO. He goes, I think you're going on a ride tonight. In fact, Travis is, he's been working on my house all night long, which is kind of cool. I love astral travel. Energy has calmed down a little bit, but it's still weird out here, man. Still weird out here.
Yeah, I could tell you were creeped out, and it sounded like your whole family had an experience individually too. I'd never heard that kind of tone in your family's voice. you know, and so I could tell there was an element of urgency. There was something different, you know, each family member expressing something odd, an odd feeling. There's definitely something to that. You know, and then you've got friends that are sensitive, that are able to hone in on your location and give their opinion. I mean, that's what it's all about. I am that nuts and bolts guy. And I'm like, while we're talking, I'm like, man, what can I do to help him? You know, and I'm like, I
You
guess
didn't know what to do. You
I'm
didn't know
like,
what to say.
dude, literally all I did was record our conversation. And I was like, well, maybe he'll want this later. You know, and I was like,
There you go.
because there was like this weird water sound at one point, but I don't know if you're inside or outside. But
No,
yeah,
dude, there was absolutely no water running. None
it sounded
whatsoever.
like you were next to a gutter or something.
No.
I'll
There
play
was
you the
no
recording.
water
Yeah.
running.
Yeah, you can hear it in the recording for sure. But I mean, that's what it is all about. The consciousness connection is so important. And in fact, I was talking to Nicole about this a little bit, that it's really hard to collate that. You know, I have the scientific part, but I know that I need the consciousness part to my research. And without an expert or some way to bring in somebody of credibility that understands it deeply to help you interpret things as they're happening, it's really hard. Because just like that experience that you just had tonight, imagine now if you were also capturing things in multiple spectrums. Because I've had experiences like that where you're capturing things above you at the same time as that bizarre feeling. And so to being able to bring in the psychology aspect, the consciousness aspect, I feel like is so important to this topic. It needs to be taken seriously because there is something to it.
You know what? I don't know what the hell it was. You know, I just know that's the first time in a long time I've had that feeling where, like, dude, every goosebump on my body was standing up. It was just one of those things. Maybe it was a Chinese weather balloon.
Yeah, maybe you're just really sensitive to radiation, whatever it was expressing out of that balloon above you.
Yeah, you never know.
Who knows?
You never know. Well, let's kick this thing off, man, because enough about my UFO life. Let's just get right to it.
Yeah.
Adversary drones are the big topic right now. Is China and other countries possibly invading the U.S. and spying? Pentagon's looking into it because maybe some of these are acting like UFOs. What do you got there, Tim?
Yeah, adversary drones are spying on the U.S., and the Pentagon acts like they're UFOs. Exactly. The U.S. military seems aloof to the fact that it's being toyed with by a terrestrial adversary, and key capabilities may be compromised as a result. And so a key a new topic has been brought forward here by Tyler Rogaway of The Drive. And I definitely want everyone to at least go to the war zone and get a slice of this on their own and read it on your own. But we're going to cover it here tonight. And so to quote this article, we may not know the identities of all mysterious craft that American military personnel and others have been seeing in the skies as of late, but I have seen more than enough to tell you that it is clear that a very terrestrial adversary is toying with us in our own backyard and using a relatively simple technology such as drones and balloons to do so, while making off with what could be the biggest intelligence haul of a generation. And while that may disappoint some who hope the origins of all these events are far more exotic in nature, the strategic implications of this bold operation and the series of other operations which have been happening for years undeterred are absolutely massive. And so, yes, realizing that the idea of an adversary is penetrating the U.S. military training areas unmolested and has been for years, using low drone technology such as balloons is a big pill to swallow. But as one of the people who have repeatedly warned about the threat posed by lower end drones for decades, warnings that largely have been dismissed by the Pentagon until drones have been made or altered, and used in war zones, literally raining down bomblets on US and Allied forces, isn't really surprising at all. And so, nor is the fact that the Defense Department is still playing catch up when it comes to the realities surrounding the drone threat, and not just to its forces abroad. And so, the gross inaction and stigma surrounding unexplained aerial phenomena as a whole has led to what appears to be the paralyzation of the systems designed to protect us and our most critical military technologies. And so, pointing to a massive failure in US military intelligence. And this is a blind spot we ourselves literally created out of the cultural taboos and a military industrial complex that is ill-suited to foresee and counter a lower end threat that is very hard to defend against. And so, of course, before moving forward, it's important to state that just because in this article, it's stating that they believe the evidence is compelling that many of the bizarre encounters with the mysterious objects in the sky as of late, and especially those that the US military is experiencing, emanate from peer state competitors. So they're saying here that we've been experiencing a lot of US military emanating from peer state competitors, not necessarily another dimension or another solar system. So there are certainly well-documented cases of seemingly unexplainable events that we have nothing to do with, and this type of capability. So in other words, our conclusions do not even come close to answering the questions of UAP or UFOs. And so what we are highlighting in this article and what brings us together here on this topic is that the biggest problem is that as a whole, people expect one blanket and grand explanation for the entire UFO mystery to one day emerge. And this is flawed thinking at its core, because the issue is clearly with one multiple explanation due to a wide range of events that have occurred under a huge number of circumstances. So this thinking must be changed, and its limits to our ability to solve some mysteries in hopes of coming up with some fantastical monolithic explanation for every relative and related mystery. So accepting that there's a likely wide array of explanations to this notoriously abused topic will be absolutely key to successfully studying it and destigmatizing it in our culture, and especially within the US military and intelligence circles. It's an important topic, and it needs to be covered.
It is.
And it's absolutely is what we're seeing here with the balloons, and how that topic has just been kind of obfuscated in its own weird way. Like, why did we wait so long to act on it? And why was the initial report on it a UFO report?
Well, I mean, look, UFOs are going to be, it's easy to blame the UFO topic right now. It really is. And, you know, I'm not here to dismiss that all UFOs are Chinese weather balloons or spy balloons or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure this is a question that we should ask random guy in overtime. Okay? Because this is a skeptic's dream right now. That everything, Tim, is a spy balloon. And look, there could be dozens of them over North America right now. We won't know unless people are spotting them, or maybe they're scanning the sky right now trying to figure out, you know, if and where there are more. This is an important topic. It really is. You know, does it affect the defense mechanisms? I don't know. Does this explain the Tic Tacs or the Go Fast or the gimbal film or the pyramids that Jeremy Corbell claims are UFOs? I don't know. We don't know if that's human technology or not. But I mean, everything is going to be suspect now because of this very simplistic infiltration of North American skies. And here's the thing, buddy, we didn't know if that had any chemicals on it. That's why they waited for it to get over the ocean. Was so in case there was chemicals on there, I believe, that they wouldn't, you know, those chemicals inside the balloon wouldn't hit any populous areas.
Right. Do you think that they are using this? Sorry, go ahead.
No. Let's. I had to cut you off there due to the break. Let's continue this topic after the break. And when we go to overtime after the radio show on our YouTube channel, we'll bring in Random Guy if he's available to break this all down. Tim Senor at the UFO Report. Getting heavy tonight, going into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back. What is that seaweed you're drinking?
Oh, alien goo, some kind of slime. Monster machine, green machine, I think. Green machine. It is delish. Interesting stuff though, and you bring up a great point. I do feel, however, like we didn't go into this, or let's just put it this way: the recent blanket that they've had to use when it comes to UAP, not UFO, but actually UAP. It feels like they use that to softball this whole Chinese balloon thing. Like it feels like it was absolutely, and we're seeing the same thing now with Russia, even trying to be like, hey, we've got UFOs now too.
I want to point something out here, okay? Because the night before they launched that F-22 with that missile, Random Guy came on here, and I've noticed a few people in our chat room not really believing what Random Guy says. But you know what? Jay Burke confirmed something very important here. He says, Chris Lato, former fighter pilot, broke this down. He said the missile they used was some type of special missile designed to pierce objects instead of exploding, and that one missile cost $1 million. Now, if you recall the conversation we had the night before the balloon was brought down, Random Guy said they're going to use a fourth-generation fighter, likely the F-22, to get up to the altitude that they need to get a good shot at this, and that they would be using a specialized AIM-9X, I believe he called it, AIM-9X Sparrow missile in order to help bring it down, because they're worried about explosions. They said that they weren't going to use machine guns to bring it in, because with the type of gas in there, even if you pop a bunch of holes in the balloon through the bullets, that it wouldn't do a difference anyways. So everything that Random Guy said the night before would happen, 100% happened. And other people like Chris Lato, thank you, Jay, for pointing that out, called it. Okay, exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Exactly what happened.
Yeah, we get those goodies all the time.
Yeah. So, the fact that Random Guy dropped that on this show, and I realize because he's anonymous that many have a problem with that, and I get that, but I'm just telling you, he is telling you guys what's going to happen before it happens, or he's telling you what's ours and what's not.
Good information. Yeah.
Right? Hi, Stephanie Jackson. How are you? Hi, Dark Protocol. So I am going to pat Random Guy in the back for that. And, I am going to point out that when he says things that are accurate, we're going to point it out.
Yeah, he called that big time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Random Guy stated that they couldn't use an exploding missile.
Yeah.
It's all on the show from a few nights ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's all recorded right there for you.
It was fun. Yeah, I think we were high-fiving him via text pretty quickly the next day.
Yes. Little Jimmy Goodall, you will meet Random Guy at our Vegas party. And I know Random Guy, I have instructed him to maybe spend some time with both you and Michael Schratt. Well, there's Random Guy there. Do you want to bring him in on this now, or do you want to wait?
Totally up to you. Sure, bring him in.
All right, let's bring in Random Guy.
And congratulations, Jim Goodall, on your new film that's coming out.
Yes. Random Guy, how you doing?
What's going on, man? I'm tired.
Oh,
Yeah, you're always tired.
I went and saw a movie tonight. That Knock at the Cabin Door. What it's called? The M. Night Shyamalan movie. The guy that did the 16th.
was it good?
It was decent. It was better than I thought. He always does weirdo stuff.
Yeah,
It was
he
good.
does.
Good watch though.
I think your buddy's in the chat room. He says, random guy is about as legit as they get. But what do I know? Just an NSA guy.
I don't know who that is, to be honest with you.
Dave, you should create him an icon too.
That's funny.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
I had the show go tonight. I missed it up until about 10 minutes ago.
that's all right. You're sounding really muffled right now. Really muffled. We got like
He didn't
20
take the
seconds.
phone out of his pocket again.
Can you
No,
hear me?
yeah,
You got to take it out.
yeah,
of
we
your
can hear
pocket.
you, but you sound muffled.
Ah, sorry. I'm on my phone.
It's in your muffle. Take it out of your muffle.
Remove the phone from your butt cheeks. Here we go, everyone. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the UFO report. Tim Senor is here, and we have now been joined by our good friend Random Guy, who is going to break down all of these UFOs that are now not UFOs, but Chinese spy balloons. Random Guy, Tim, welcome back. And Random Guy, I want to talk to you about this because this is a skeptic's dream regarding this Chinese spy balloon, because now everybody is going to call any orb in the sky that they see in the daylight a spy balloon and not a UFO.
I mean, yeah, if you want to oversimplify it, but we both know that's not accurate either.
Why do we know it's not accurate?
Clearly, there's things that moving at velocities that are not weather balloons or surveillance balloons or stuff like that. I don't think one's related to the other. I actually think this is more along the lines of what we were talking about with our friend Putin last night, right? It could be psyops, it could be surveillance, it could be any number of things. But yeah, the Chinese drone thing is out of control over the Navy. I've heard that's not the first I've heard of it. I think I sent you guys previous to this a few links on that.
Yeah, and so in particular, you brought this article to my attention, and what in the particular raised a red flag when you read this article from the War Zone?
It wasn't so much a red flag. I just really wanted you guys to understand that it's not me just saying things. That's not me. I do a lot of speculation. So this was just more of the thing of, like, not so much on the show, but when we BS'd and tried to have conversations about what could this phenomenon be. And it was more a validation of my point that, yes, we probably have, I assume we have the best technology in the world. But other countries have cool stuff too. And if they cannot be effective with the deployment of their technology, they could still be good at using it to harass, cause misinformation, surveillance, stuff like that. So games are being played by all sides. I know the Chinese drone thing, I've heard about this a million times. So it's just kind of cool for you guys just to put it in perspective that some of these things are going on, and it could be, I'm not even going to say it's the tic tac. I'm not going to go that far, but I've told you guys specifically some of these things that I've seen. I'm like, I think it's us messing with our own stuff, or our own guys. But I have to leave it at that.
Right. Right. Okay. So if this has been happening for a while, is that the first time we've actually shot one down because of public pressure?
To my knowledge, well, okay. As far as a weather balloon or whatever surveillance balloon thing was, I've heard some different things on this, by the way, that are going to come out. I think mostly it was to see what they can get away with. So you guys already heard there's like 4 or 5 of these things out there right now. And I know people were referring back to one that happened, what was it, 3 years ago when Trump was in office? Because, we can't have any discussions in this world, God forbid, without bringing politics in it, right? Who's president. But the bottom line is China doesn't care. The only reason China cares who's president is because of, trade stuff in the administration and the economy. They don't really care with their military goals and their surveillance goals. They're going to do what they want to do. So yeah, these things have happened before. As far as I know, there's 4 or 5 of exactly what we pulled down all over right now, not just over the United States, but in various other places that are from China. This thing started, we knew where it was. We could have shot it down point blank. So like this whole, we didn't want to shoot it down because of it might have had chemicals on it or something. That's not accurate. Because we could have taken it out immediately in Alaska, uninhabited. We could have taken it out in the bridge between Canada and Idaho. We had multiple places to do that if that was the goal. I think they wanted to do recon on it. From what I heard, they flew by, they photographed, they took RF sampling to see what frequencies it was transmitting at, to see, just to get that kind of technology information. They were able to glean some data from that. And I think whoever made that decision obviously is better informed than us and decided that was the best route. And I think at the end, shooting it down was a political symbolic move more than an operationally effective move.
Okay. I want to ask you this, random guy, because, I think the majority of us civilians are not very astute as to what truly it's all about. And as somebody who's never served, I know I'd be very ignorant of what was going on. I look at China. They got a number of satellites up there, dozens, if not hundreds, that are probably highly accurate. What's the purpose of a weather balloon?
So balloons are great for a lot of reasons, actually. Actually, I'm going to see here if I can switch camera or microphones for you. Hang on one second.
There you go.
All right. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, you're great now. You're nice and clear now.
Okay, cool. I literally switched from Android to Apple. Another device. Balloons have a lot of advantages, both tactically, financially, like everything. Because first of all, what's the number one thing that China came out and said? This is just a weather research balloon. This is not a big deal. It just went off track. You guys are overreacting. Everybody chill, which is plausible, right? So if you ever were going to do a sneak attack, if you did want to do nefarious surveillance, you would put it under the guise of a civilian mission, right? So that's the number one, the psychological, tactical advantage of having a balloon. Second of all, they're cheap as hell. These things are like $1,000, depending. I mean, the arrays clearly cost more, but the balloon itself is less than $1,000. So you could literally put up hundreds of these things at a pretty low cost and flood an area with it if you did want to weaponize it. The other thing it can do, a balloon is in our atmosphere, a satellite is not. They could take air readings. They could read radiation over silos. They could read stuff over power plants, ICBMs, what have you, and literally smell the air. The other thing they could do is something called LiDAR mapping. So LiDAR mapping, yeah, they can do it to a degree from space, but when you do it terrestrially inside the atmosphere, they can measure our Cheyenne Mountain. They can measure that stuff down to like a centimeter. So there's definitely, if you're able to hide the mission under something benign, or if you have the radar signature small enough and no one spots it, you can go who knows how long, get the data that you need. And if anybody finds it, who cares? You're not going to lose any pilots. You can pretend you were doing something else and you're going to get that data. And then if you ever went to war with that country, which I don't think we would, but if hypothetically, now they know those missiles are $400,000 each that we used. Okay. you can't. There's not enough aircraft, not enough missiles. If they just sat up with cargo ships and started sending thousands of these things over the United States to distract, take time at command and control, and every 10th one has an EMP on it, they could take down grids. They could take down comms. Now we have stuff to combat that, trust me, but it would make life pretty miserable in the United States, and it would make for the jump off of a pretty crappy beginning to a war for a country that's very reliant on technology.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How about you, Tim?
How do you feel they used the UFO UAP topic to cover up and softball their reaction to their knowledge and action on this?
Question. Good question.
Can you be more specific?
Well, so the secretary knew about this and was still going to go to China.
Right.
Once public reaction was like UFO, and then they were like, oh, it's actually something, and then he decided to call it off and postpone.
Right.
That's one thing. The second thing was that they were okay kind of using the safety blanket of what we just read in our UAP report, how they were going to diagnose things before just acting on things. And so even though they may have gotten a command from our president on how to act, they still took time to do something different.
I feel like there's definitely, so this just goes with the territory. For something that was not an imminent threat, there's things you will never hear about that presidents have to make decisions, assets, freaking assassins, like people that get caught here with weapons, terrorists. And the president makes a ton of decisions about these things. Most of them, if it's benign, meaning not that it wasn't dangerous, but it's like not an imminent threat and they got it under control, they literally make political decisions at that point.
What way did they use the actual UFO topic, though, specifically to work into this?
I don't know. I don't know that information. I know I had heard that, but it sounded to me from the people I've talked to that are still in the mix that Biden's initial reaction was like, take it out. We can't have that. And that the Pentagon staffers said, well, wait a second. And they kind of talked him down. That was the story I heard. Now, it's hearsay, it's secondhand, but people that actually work in these places, so take it for what it's worth, grain of salt.
Okay, now let's go to another situation where our Snoopy teams are out there collecting data on what they're perceiving as UAP. And instead of our warships potentially using their anti-drones on these bizarre lights in the sky, they are considering them UAP and not acting on them. How is the UAP topic potentially interfering with our security and intelligence?
Simply because of the fact that we have to take it seriously. So if there's a light and it's a UFO, a UAP, we still have to respond to it. We still have to investigate it. That means man hours that they're not doing something else, right? Wild goose chases. And then you look at the situations with surveillance, where that's definitely something that's going on with the Chinese drones in our boats, especially in the natural waters.
It is very, very interesting. Very interesting indeed when it comes to the spy game that is played along with this.
Misinformation is huge.
We're going to get into a different topic here. The Pentagon's highest ranking UFO hunter finally comes out in public and then sees his shadow and runs back in. Jay Stratton, let's hear about him.
Groundhog Day indeed. So the creator and former director of the UAPTF, Jay Stratton, has given his first ever public interview with journalists George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, featured on the episode 3 of Weaponized podcast. And I think it's very important just to briefly highlight here that this interview actually took place at the same time as the interview that they did with Travis Taylor. So although we are seeing it now publicly, it was actually recorded some weeks earlier. and I don't know exactly how far earlier, but I don't know if it's completely relevant. But at this point, Stratton is the only person from the federal government to have worked on all of the modern UAP programs, and is the most senior figure directly involved to have spoken out, having held a rank comparable to a 2-star admiral. And so, speaking to Knapp on his approach to the UAPTF, Stratton spoke out about the importance of trust and quotes, "We're already 70 years behind the power curve for trust, right? So because everybody says the government's lying to us and that the whole Blue Book thing and the whole Roswell thing killed trust." And so regarding his investigative approach, Stratton later added, "I kept an open mind, a skeptic mind, and whatever you want to call it, looking for something that can answer this in all the means that I had to chase that. But there were definitely some times where we really couldn't close the loop, and we realized that something needed to be done about it." And so there's quite a lot of information that comes out in the interview, but he likes to present his work in the UAP programs and his background in identifying the capabilities of other nations' military systems, validating potential threats, and then ruling them out. And so what he's trying to focus on is the actual UAP itself. And so Jay Stratton is now being considered the U.S. government's top UFO hunter. And he conducted the first in-depth investigation of the Tic Tac case and is the only person in the entire government to work on all the major UFO probes, including the DIA's ambitious program, OSAP, its successor, ATIP, and then the UAP Task Force, which he created, organized, and directed before it was formally authorized by Congress. And so the classified briefing that he wrote, narrated, and presented to key audiences is a primary reason why the newest program era was created. And so, unlike many of his former colleagues at the DoD, Stratton believes that the public has a right to know what's going on rather than obfuscation, stonewalling, and misleading statements and strategic leaks to debunkers, all of which continue to muddy the UAP waters. And so it's important to include here the fact that Jeremy Corbell provided photographic and video releases within the audio and visual report generated by Stratton and the UAPTF, including the Mosul orb. So what I'm saying here, just to repeat, is that Jeremy Corbell was the person that provided a lot of information, video, both video and photographs, audio and visual, to Stratton and the UAPTF, including the Mosul orb photograph and video, when the report was generated. So we are starting to see some of the same things that they are seeing in the confidential part, but publicly, we've still got quite a bit to see. And so Stratton now speaking a little bit, on the record publicly. There's quite a bit more that we can get into, but I'd love to get your first take before I get into some further quotes.
I think this adds a lot of credibility to Lou Elizondo that Jay Stratton has come out. But once again, we got to remember there are people within the U.S. government that are paid to maybe not tell the full truth, and with Jay Stratton, I just don't know enough about him in order to really get into a deep dive on whether or not this man is telling us the truth about UFOs and what he did and what isn't a UFO. It's going to be interesting. Random guy, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I honestly don't have a whole lot. You know how I feel about these guys. I'm not discrediting them. I'm not saying they're fake. I'm not saying any of that because I don't know. I have a hard time when somebody says that they're going to come out and be a whistleblower and still give us nothing. Like, you're either a whistleblower or you're not. Like, are you here to tell the truth in your story? Or are you just here to be in the limelight? Because coming out and say, hey guys, I know stuff, just pay me and put me on your company team and pay me for your events and all this stuff, but I'm just going to tell you yeah, there's cool stuff. Like I could tell you guys there's cool stuff, and I'm not going to tell you. Like that's just the way it works. They're basically doing this, like taking it to this extreme of benefiting themselves and positioning themselves for whatever. I don't know if it's for the money, the attention, what. Now they may have good intentions, but I just don't feel like it's productive. Like you're not actually giving us what we need. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And also, let's consider for a moment that Stratton currently works with Radiance Technologies, where he is the leading, directing, assisting, and developing efforts in existing contracts and the creation of new areas of business related to scientific and technical intelligence with the focus on reverse engineering. So,
I mean,
Radiance
but what does that mean?
Technologies.
He's part of a club, like
So, if you go to Radiance Technologies' website, when you go on their splash page, it talks about them developing a high-focused laser technology, in fact. And it goes into actually some pretty decent-looking hardware that is obviously being used by our military. So what it looks like is that he is developing and working on efforts on major contracts in developing some pretty massive hardware, military hardware. And so with insight like that, he probably has a pretty good idea on how to look for UAP and UFO using our technology and developing other things to help us find it and weed out what is UFO and what isn't.
But is it leading us to conclusions? Is it solving mysteries for us?
Yeah. Very interestingly, technical intelligence is part of what they do at Radiance Technologies with a focus on reverse engineering. And so that's a very general gray statement, but it kind of makes you wonder what he has insights to. But other revelations included one event where an unnamed official told him that he should not get involved in the UAP topic due to religious concerns, right? And that was another massive thing. And previously, the Pentagon's Public Affairs Office commented the former ATIP director, Lou Elizondo, had no assigned responsibilities. And now that's coming out that was all false.
Well, gentlemen, we're going to have to continue this in overtime for our YouTube audience and say goodnight to our radio side of things. And if they want to hear what happens, just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/spaced out radio. It'll all be there for you. Thank you, Tim Senor, for the UFO report. Random guy for joining us early. And of course, somewhere out there, NSA guy who is tuning us in, wondering what the hell we're talking about. Yeah, and everybody else who's joined tonight's show. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. That might become a t-shirt there, Jules. Just saying. We own the MFN Night. Random guy.
I feel like things are getting away from us.
You feel like things are getting away from us? What does that mean?
I love this chat, man. It's endless entertainment on every
It's fun time.
in every direction. I love it.
I don't read it. I get too distracted if I start reading.
I put it on my TV, and then I usually talk to you guys like on my phone or something, so that I can keep it going, because it's too small to see the chat if you're looking at like a phone or something.
Even NSA guy is riding the woo train right there.
That guy is a troll. You should block that.
NSA
You need to
guy.
block and kick that guy. I don't even know who that is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Love it.
Oh, the question is, are you two in the same room again?
No.
What the hell am I?
Maggie, yes, I am watching. I'm watching you, Maggie. I see you there.
Big Brother is watching.
No, this is the best chat room ever.
It always freaks me out when you manage to like say something from a conversation I'd had earlier in the day. I'm like, you really are listening in. How?
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it's so bizarre. I'm like, I was telling my sister that. How are you bringing that up right now?
Did I get Nicole's number? No, I didn't get Nicole's number. Is that what I saw? What the hell are people talking about?
Who's Random Fan now?
Random Fan.
I'm spawning bot accounts for you guys.
I like it.
Random Fan.
This is out of control. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want me to hit that third story with RG?
What's the? Oh no, that's the Canadian one. Just save it.
Save
he knows
it.
nothing about Canada.
Save the Canadians. No one cares about Canada. Come on.
2-0, buddy. 2-0.
Random guy is so stuck up he won't follow you back on Twitter. My follow list is incredibly low.
I love it.
Actually, I don't even know who I'm following on that account, but whatever. Yes, Deb, I make my own fans. It's what happens when you grow up alone and you play by yourself in your room. I have pretend friends.
Oh.
Where do we go from here,
Wow.
Dave? Dave, can you get us back on any course possible?
I have a question.
Let's go.
You know I have a question. And I've kind of been circling around it because I'm starting to realize it as a fact.
Hold on. You know, before you do this, Tim,
Go ahead.
before you do this, somebody get a stopwatch and time the length of Tim's questions.
I know. Well, damn it.
Oh, dude, I love
Stop
it.
pointing out the obvious truth. Okay.
I love
Keeping
you,
it
buddy.
short. Keeping it, I will keep it short. Okay. I just feel like it's becoming more and more obvious that the UFO topic is we're being appeased with the UFO topic so that they can take their time and cover up all of, these other things that we're seeing in the skies.
Ding, ding, ding.
Right. But as we know, there's an element of UFO that is absolutely real and true.
Yes, for sure.
And so are they taking that aspect seriously, and which aspect of the government is doing that?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't work for those people. I never have. I'm just a guy that knows random things. I really don't know. That's not my department. You probably know better than me, being straight up honest. I don't know who is heading that. I do know there is, depending on what the project is, different people have different priorities, and they have to submit that project for whatever kind of black world existence they need. And so whatever that project needs, whether they say, hey, we have this, our official story is this thing is a UFO, or our official story is this doesn't exist, or what have you, that stuff all gets planned out and it all has to be submitted. So, but it's literally like group by group. It's so compartmentalized. There's people that work at the top levels and they have no clue about an equally important program. Did that answer your question or not?
No, yeah, no, yes, it did. But I keep thinking of Enigma, and it makes me wonder what their role is and why now, because we know the company only just
Mhm.
went public really right now, but obviously it was gearing up towards it. And I'm still confused as to COO Mark Douglas and his role.
Well, I mean, if you want, I'll go start stalking him. If you pay me, you want to pay him, fly me around. I'll just do some surveillance. I'm a random guy. I fit in well to all.
Big brother.
I fit well in many environments.
I do have questions. I have questions. I have lots of questions. So yes.
Let's go.
I would love 5 minutes, or just to be a fly on his wall, let's say, because I'm sure we have drones that small.
For sure.
But
it's on the History Channel, they show like the bug drones. That's not even a secret.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're publicly coming out and saying that one of the company's most important objectives is to educate the public about what UAP are and they are not, by highlighting cases of mistaken identity. And a lot of the examples that they even show are pretty recent examples, and they were debunked by, let's just call it the public, not like anyone formal. For example, they showed the Wisconsin lights, and they gave Mick West's verbatim description of what it was and how it was debunked and how we should be aware of it, which I to an extent I applaud that they are educating people on what things to look for, but by no means have we confirmed that is what that was. We're 99% sure, but at the same rate we're not 100% sure, and so I found that a little frustrating. How much disinformation do you think is taking place at that website, since it wants to be the one-stop shop?
I don't know that there's any disinformation at this point. It sounds like they potentially purchased one or more databases for money to give them viability, and they're either connected officially or unofficially on a contract to the government, or they would not be sitting at the table in NASA and Arrow and all this other stuff day one. Like we talked about, if we got with Dave's buddy in Utah who has some money, and we wanted to form our own kind of database with all the best intentions in the world, even with all of the legitimacy that you guys would bring to that, you couldn't pay enough money to get those meetings. And these people just have them. That is odd. I don't think they're at the stage of disinformation yet. What happens is the first thing you need to do is you need to gather all the information. You need to hold all the data. Then you look at the data, and if it tells a story you don't want it to tell, then you manipulate it. But you need that data first in order to understand what disinformation even is.
Now, I've done a lot of talking to people over the last couple of weeks about Enigma and what's going on. And from what I'm hearing, they are saying that they have access to databases to which they actually don't. Like they are playing some serious games right now in saying that they are a little bit more important than maybe what people are giving them credit for. Or I should say this.
My take on this is, they're not the government. They're not a legal entity. They're not appointed by Congress. They're a private corporation. If that's the case, submit a bunch of fake stuff. See what they do with it. Literally, it's kind of like sending tracking devices in. You tell these contrived stories that are very precise, pony up some CGI stuff to go along with it, and see how it moves through their system and who contacts people and stuff like that, and see how it works from the inside. And then once you understand their process, then you know where they're vulnerable for, as far as, oh, here's a person's name we have now, or, oh, they took my story and they changed it, or whatever. And then without compromising any real people, any real experiencers, any real data that would actually be harmful to individuals, and you we're basically social engineering them. I'm not saying
Sounds
to
like
do
a
that,
job
but
for
that's what I
NSA
would do. That's what I would do if I was running an op on this.
Right. And what I'm hearing Dave saying is that they're making some laying claims to ownership of data that they don't even own yet.
No.
Which is not a good sign.
There was one company, I'm going to keep this a little vague. There was one company where they were telling people that they had all of their files. And that company actually approached them and said, would you please not put our name in your mouths anymore, because you don't have any of our files and you don't have permission to go through our files. And that is something that I heard recently that somebody told me in a phone call. And I was quite shocked by that, because let's face it, we know Enigma has been around since 2020 when they first started kind of putting things together, but they just got their website up. They haven't really been doing anything except a couple podcasts and sponsoring a conference.
Sounds like they're far more considerate of their marketing than their actual research.
Right now, yeah.
Right. I am concerned.
What we don't know yet is if they scrub MUFON or not. Because MUFON is pretty loosey-goosey. You throw them a few bucks, okay, and all of a sudden, they're your girlfriend for the night.
Oh, now you're making me think the last night's show. I'm feeling lonely again.
Oh, you leave Geraldine alone.
Hey.
I wasn't here last night.
I didn't say anything. I did not say anything about Geraldine. I just said the show, sir.
She's great.
I simply said the show.
Yeah. Let's say this. What kind of response do you have to the fact that they are assigning cases a numerical 1 through 10 assignment based on, I don't know what, their own scrutiny?
I like that idea, actually. I think under the right pretense, that's actually a great way to do it. And as long as it's not subjective, as long as that scoring system is completely objective. So it's like, was this video taken in high definition, or the photograph? Is it something we can extrapolate on a monitor to rule out CGI? That lends to the validity of the claim, right? Does this person have a history of psychiatric problems? Like, all these things should have a factor, and they should not be subjective, and every single case should have that. And I think that's a great idea. But that system needs to be completely transparent. It has to be publicly known how it's controlled, how it's rated. And everybody needs to be able to look at that and look at that score and be like, yep, that makes sense based on the criteria, and we concur with it.
Right. And that's not typically what we're seeing so far. We're not really seeing how Enigma works.
Right. So, it's like a credit score. They're running a FICO score on UFO encounters. And we all know how great that is.
Right. Right. My concern that I drew from that was that how would they collate the results from that? And would they skew it to a certain way? Like, they could absolutely just press a button and have all of their abductions. And then they could press another button and have all of their things in HD, like you're saying. And then they could skew them a certain way.
Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at here. And I think it's going to be a spoiler alert for you. I think what you guys are going to find out is that the highest rated stories all have one or two things in common that have nothing to do with the individual, but the actual sighting itself. And I won't spoil that for you. I just have a theory. In fact, I'm going to write it down, put it in an envelope, and seal it like in a time capsule. And when it comes out in a couple of years, when this is happening, and I'm going to be like, remember when I told you that? And I want to be able to pull it out and see if I was right or not. But yeah, I think you're going to see a tendency where there's very specific things that happen over and over again, because my theory is that the majority of these sightings are terrestrial.
Be right back, guys.
Right. And am I understanding that they would be more interested in ones where witnesses are separating themselves from the sighting? Like, they're like, we just saw this. We really didn't, it's nothing to do with me. Like, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood what you meant by that.
No, I was simply saying that as far as the ratings go, I think you're going to see certain tendencies on like shape, lighting, timing. You're going to see certain consistencies with the higher rated stories. And to go back to your question is, are they going to attempt to skew or move certain scores based on maybe internal information, cover-ups, what have you, right? I take it that's what you were asking. So I think yes, because I think the highest rated UFO stories are actually going to be our secret stuff. And I think that stuff is going to be leaned on to be scrubbed, which is going to be difficult when you're giving it a 9.9 because of the validity and how strong it is. And here's the other thing, frequency. So if I have people in New York, Tennessee, California, Washington, and they're all seeing the same damn thing, that also should bring the score up, because it's more likely that it's something that a phenomenon, a true UFO UAP, if it's being seen in multiple different places, different demographics, different weather patterns, and yet we're still seeing a similar craft, right?
Yeah. I think what I was leaning even more towards was the fact that they were trying to present themselves as being desirable to the federal government when they're looking for their one-stop shop for data, and if they already have it collated and perhaps they're only showing so for example, MUFON has 8% of their cases as unresolved true UFO.
Right.
What if Enigma has 15% of their cases as true UFO? Like, that makes them even more desirable than MUFON. You see what I'm saying here? That would be even more desirable if you're really looking for UAP, perhaps. And so they're much more saleable, and they can start writing their own paychecks if they're being.
I think they're going to sell. I think they're selling the algorithm and not the outcome. I think this is okay. And again, this is pure guessing. But based on what I've read, I think that similar to how there's quant traders in the stock market, they probably have algorithms for this stuff, and they're going to wow the pants off of the government people. And somebody that's either an elected official's brother, son, cousin is somehow going to get money out of this. And like, it's just hard not to believe that. And again, that's me, Mr. Negative, Mr. Skeptical. But like, I always lean that way because humans typically do the worst thing unless they have no other choice. Like in the unfortunately, as a whole, when it comes to the government, it's usually the simplest answer is follow the money, follow the power.
Right. And this is so funny too, because in the article and from a lot of the other quotes that I've seen from this company, they talk about how transparent they are and how they want to share all their information. But if you go to their website, it is incredibly hard to just look up a case or see any real information. They have a few splash pages, but it's really hard to dig in to actual any cases for that matter. So I have yet to see any actual transparency from that.
Why is there not for anybody? And again, I kind of asked, I think it was Nicole, we asked the question about how transparent is MUFON's database and how accessible is it? Yeah. And I think the only way we quell this is if there's 100% transparency in the reports. We can redact names, of course, addresses. That's not, as long as those are verified when they're input. But as far as like the database that goes online for statistics purposes, for research purposes, we need to all know what's going on without any can't say it right now.
I know obfuscation is a hard
yes
word.
Thank you. I told you I was tired. I apologize.
No,
without any of that, it can't be behind a paywall.
Right.
It needs to be, poor people need to have the same access as wealthy people to the data. That's my opinion. Or you can never have anywhere close to transparency of it.
Yeah, and I don't like that they own your information and photographs and that they can just use them however they like.
They're going to monetize it.
And that is not comfortable, I think, to any witness, or
no,
most
like people that do the DNA testing. You pay us, send us your DNA, and now we own those samples of your DNA. Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's literally what's going on with those DNA. It's the same thing, though. It's like, so I'm paying you to data mine me.
Yeah.
And then if I want more information on the data I already gave you, you want me to pay you again? Sorry. I mean, I'm not the smartest business guy in the world, but that just doesn't seem like a fair deal to me.
Yeah, it's bizarre. You can do it with your dog too, or any pet. Yeah.
Oh, Omni Volador versus random guy. Oh, maybe in Vegas we could set up a match.
Oh, that would be so sweet. I think we've talked about this. I feel like somewhere I heard this before.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I mean,
in a tax chat?
Is it going to be like a mask with a mullet? Like, what's? Because we all know you've got a military haircut. So
sometimes when I'm not in disguise.
In disguise, right?
I had a mohawk last month, and my son's like, do a mohawk. I'm like, okay. So I had a full-on mohawk, and then I shaved that. Now I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'll let my daughter pick the next one.
I can do a reverse mohawk. I can do everywhere but the middle.
That's funny.
Wow.
We missed you, Dave. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Glad you didn't get abducted on your break.
No, that's coming up in about an hour and a half.
How do you prepare for something like that?
Lots of lube.
Oh, RG.
What?
You went so quick. So quick with the response.
I just have that mind. I don't know. I think of the worst case scenario at all times.
At least, okay. Yep. So
it only hurts. It only hurts for the first insertion. After that, it's just you just go with it.
Speaking from like experience here.
Experience of delivering, not taking.
Wait a minute.
Oh wait, we're not on the radio show. I can say these things now. I'm not cursing.
Oy. This is one of those moments.
It's a moment. It's one of those moments.
Dave thought he had the kids filter on for Timmy tonight.
Nope.
It's hardcore stuff for me. Look at the interference Dave's camera is getting. I think he's being abducted right now.
It is kind of weird.
Right? That's due to my downloading of the files to the radio stations.
Oh, okay. I can imagine the RF readings in that little office right now. Jeez.
Oh yeah,
radiated. He's radiated. We can actually see like a little outline of him when he gets up out of that chair.
Dave can charge his cell phone without plugging it in.
He just walks in the room.
Just holds it.
Aw. All right. So do you have any questions from your audience, or should we?
I think we discussed
I don't see any questions from the audience. Do we have any questions from the audience?
I don't have chat.
I do. People are talking about tamales or something. I don't know.
I love tamales.
Yeah, whatever. Good old chat. I think we're good.
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
We're good for the night.
Or is it Thursday? Who knows what it is? Now it's Wednesday.
It's either did I drink today? Did I get paid today? What happened? Days of the week kind of blend together.
Yeah, by what you're drinking, that's how you know what day it is. If it's coffee, it's Monday. If it's whiskey, it's probably Monday night.
Oh, I see a question.
Ask random guy about military incursion into the Antarctic.
That's a good question. I don't know about military incursion. I know they're doing a bunch of experiments out there. Like I said, I have friends there right now, literally. And it's so secure, they actually message me on Facebook Messenger. That's how secretive it is. Sending me pictures of them standing in 15 feet of snow, going, why the hell did I take this contract? I don't know about an incursion. I don't know specifically what you're asking, but that's pretty funny.
Do they ever talk about any mysteries up there?
Oh, dude, there's all kinds of crazy stuff.
You want to drop any?
Just people going missing, like, and again, these are people that work for the government. They're contracted to be there. And most of them are ex-military or researchers or geniuses or whatever, rocket scientists, what have you. So these aren't people that startle easy or make assumptions, or they're pretty mostly educated and or experienced people. And I've heard some things, just lights in the sky, things disappearing, people disappearing, people thinking boats were there, and then they figured out it wasn't water, it was ice. So how the hell did a boat float by? Like, just weird stuff, really weird stuff. Mind plays tricks on people, with the way the sun works up there. Just crazy stuff. But so far, no aliens that he's found. And he's on a mission to find it. He's like, dude, I'm going to tell you. If I find it, I'm telling you.
What about the big hole? Is that real? Is there a massive hole up there somewhere?
No. Now there's caves, there's hollowed out stuff like that, but as far as like, and they've used LiDAR and stuff like that to map some of this stuff, and they are keeping that secret, which is kind of suspicious. But as far as he knows, and my other buddy that just stopped working there, he told me the same thing. He's like, dude, it's a nothing burger, but there's definitely some weird stuff. It's like, if there is something happening, because it's small people, like it's like 1,000 people, right, that work there. Less than that, I think, at times. And they all talk. Everybody's on board. Some of it's not discussable. Some of it is. But for the most part, no one sees anything besides the crazy stuff that randomly they see. No one's been getting NDAs or debriefed or, that kind of stuff, abducted.
Right. And so you think during World War II, the big German interest there was simply strategic, nothing UFO related?
Now, the Germans, that's a whole nother story. I do think it was partly strategic, but if you look at, I'm going to act like I know something I don't, but just in my brief knowledge of the Nazis and the technology that they wielded, and then the way they deployed around the world, Argentina and everything else, it seemed like so elaborate, and based on the technology they have, like, it makes you wonder, like, were they talking to somebody? Did they know something? Like, I mean, their scientists were the basis for splitting the atom. They created rocketry. They created out of nothing, essentially, these evil people that, had all this stuff going on, and they created all this stuff. It's like, wait, why would that happen in the midst of such totalitarian evil rule? And then, like I said, the way they deployed around the world is just highly suspicious to me. I think there's definitely more to that story.
Interesting. Well, they had the Vril, didn't they? Whatever the Vril was. Cool stuff.
Couple questions for Random Guy. Joe wants to know, what does Random Guy know about Bigfoot?
I am a Bigfoot, except I'm not hairy. I have almost no body hair. People always ask me, do you shave your arms? And I'm like, no, I don't. It's like, but yeah, I have big feet. But Bigfoot, as far as Sasquatch, I'm a big fan of Harry and the Hendersons. Recently showed my kids that film. They're fans of it now.
Great movie.
Yep. Bring them to my area.
YJ's exposing
Raz wants to know, Random Guy, what do you know anything about Admiral Byrd?
The Roswell guy?
No,
the Antarctica guy.
Yeah,
that tells you what I know about it. Nothing.
It's he flew into the Earth through the hole, and there was like
yeah. I remember that story. Yeah, I don't know it. Like I said, chat, you guys probably, when it comes to things that are not actually proven out there in the military world, you guys probably know more than me about most of this stuff. That's just the way it is.
All right.
Just know the military world.
Joan wants to know if any of us are going to contact in the desert. No, not me. Only things I've got planned this year are San Francisco and Vegas. That's a nice low year.
Yes, Deb, I'm bragging. Size 16. That's right.
Major Lee from the UK wants to know, how much revenue did the balloon generate? Probably lots for TV.
If you look at the news cycles, they made a ton on advertising.
Yeah.
You got to look at how many donor dollars went to the Biden administration after that shoot down.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about the recovery or any of the tech?
No, speculation. from my buddy works at Coast Guard out there in Florida, which is not South Carolina, but so he's close enough. They're all asking people that were around, and it's been pretty hush hush. My guess is that it just probably going to be a nothing burger. I'll bet you it ends up being there were no bombs, there were no gas, there was no sensors. It was probably just it was either one of two things: either they screwed up and lost control of it, and then they wanted to do a show of force politically, or they were just testing to see what we would do. And I think ultimately it's going to end up being nothing but a bunch of sensors, maybe some mapping stuff, but it would be innocuous enough that it wouldn't be quote unquote an act of war or anything like that. They'd be able to just basically disappear into the news.
Right.
All right, guys. We're going to call it the night. So I got to get up with my boy in the morning for school.
Indeed.
Tomorrow night on the show, Hollywood Witch, Patty Negri from Ghost Adventures will be our guest tomorrow night.
Cool.
Yeah. Wayne Newton's Apples wants to know, what's your favorite band, random guy?
Lincoln Park. I used to go to Project Revolution every single year.
Which band?
Lincoln Park.
Oh, nice.
Good choice.
I used to go to I've been to like 14 or 15 of their shows. Sad way for that to end.
Yeah, I think they're going to come back, though.
I don't know how you replace Chester, but
I know. But the other singer there, he's pretty damn good, too.
we shall see. Hopefully they run out of money at some point and come back. And I actually met them once when I first got out of the military. I was working doors for like clubs in LA and stuff. And they came in one night and Mike Shinoda gave me $200 to take his girl to the bathroom. And I couldn't geek out and like fanboy on him because, you know, I had to be a professional, but in retrospect, I should have done it.
That's cool. Yep. That's a good story.
So
$200.
Nice dude. Yeah.
$200 to date his girlfriend. That's great.
No. To get her to the bathroom.
Oh,
because in the clubs they're like crazy.
That was a take her to the bathroom in quotes.
Oh no. It was escort her, because when you work security, you can get through the crowd and not have any hiccups.
I'm just busting your chops.
Yeah, not the first one.
It's been fun. Thanks. Good. Hey, thanks for inviting me tonight. This has been fun.
No problem. Random guy, we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys. Love you, chat.
Right.
Kisses.
Later, everybody. Thank you to our super chatters tonight. Pam H., Bob, Dennis, Lori, Obi Flett, Deb, Marty, Rob, Maddie ×2, Lala ×2, Joan, Kira, and Steve. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody. And thank you for a great night. Patty Negri from Ghost Adventures is our guest tomorrow night. Let's have some fun. We'll see you all then. Good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.